getting the chair warmed up for you.
Where's Greg?
He's coming.
Oh. Where's Greg? Where's Brett?
Emily's not coming.
Oh.
So I'm going to be Emily tonight.
Good luck being Emily.
Okay.
And I do have a comment on
All right. Well, I mean, if it's okay with the commission, we'll get started. I hate to interrupt the chit chat. Everyone out to the Lehi Planning Commission, December 4th, 2025. We are officially called to order, and we'll go ahead and move on into review and acceptance of the Planning Commission meeting schedule for 2026. We do we want to say or do much on that?
It looked, I didn't see anything egregious or.
We vote on this, right?
We do.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Great.
Ready. Item 2.1, 2026 Planning Commission meeting schedule. I move that we approve the meeting schedule.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful. Okay. Very good. Moving into the consent agenda. Minutes from the October 23rd meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have a correction to propose for item 3.2. I think it's lines 109, 110. The vote. I was present and I did vote for that one.
Okay.
I think Commissioner Roberts was not here. He didn't vote. So if we can make that addition, that change, then I would move to approve the consent agenda, item 3.1, 3.2, the meeting minutes from the October 23rd and the November 13th, 2025 meetings with the suggested correction.
Repair. Fix. Yep. Okay.
Brent, you're saying you were there?
I was there on the 13th, the November 13th. I was not there for October 23rd.
Okay, gotcha.
But I'm talking November 13th.
Gotcha.
I was there for the first item, I was there for the second item, but I wasn't voting for the second item. It was just weird, but it'll be correct. I voted for all of them.
Very good.
I may change that. I voted on each of them. I didn't vote for all of them.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Wonderful. Okay, minutes from November 13th.
Oh, that's the one that we just did. He did both of them together.
I did vote.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
I did
All
the
right.
consent agenda.
Did. I mean, I technically called for 3.1, but yes. Very good. Then we are done and into the regular agenda. Brittany, 4.1.
4.1. Public hearing and consideration of Boyd Stewart Plat A plat amendment of the Stewart subdivision located at 406 West, 600 North. So this plat was, the Stewart subdivision plat was approved in 1951. So it doesn't, lot 2 is a little bit more narrow than what is currently allowed in the code, but since it was back in the 50s, this plat amendment is just moving the lot line. The home was built so it's over the existing lot line, so it's just moving it so the existing home will be on one lot and then lot 2 will be a buildable lot. Yeah, with that, I'll turn it back to the commission for any questions.
Fantastic. Any questions for staff? All right, very good. Is the applicant present? Yes. Sir, you're welcome to speak to it or not, as the case may be. You don't have to. Okay. Very good. This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone from the public who'd like to speak to this item, now is the time. Come on up to the mic, sir, and please state your name and
Just give you information. I'm one of Boyd's neighbors.
yeah.
Like you go up on the map there, that plot right there, not the one next to it, the one right there, it's mine.
Okay.
And I was wondering because I had heard something, they're moving that fence because it's off like 5 feet or something like that. Is that true? That fence line right up there on top up there. Not that one, the one this way. Yeah, that one.
It's, Kim, do you have anything that you would add?
I would
or for that?
say maybe the applicant could answer that.
Sure.
We wouldn't require anything to be moved.
Correct.
So it would just be up to, it would be between the two property owners.
Yeah,
Okay, this is just information, because.
absolutely.
Yeah, because, I mean, it doesn't bother me to move it or anything like that. I just trying to verify if that's what's happening here or something like that before you know what I mean? Just wondering, just
Yeah.
finding information.
That's it. You're in the right place to do that.
Because that's like my backyard right there, so.
The plans don't indicate it moving. They just call it out as an existing. They don't say like moving it on the plans. But
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's basically the only reason I'm here. I'm just trying to find out what's happening with it.
Sure.
But that's, I'm good.
Sir, forgive me, did you state your name?
Oh, sorry, James Hall.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Mr. Hall. Anyone else from the public?
Hi. My name is Kent Grover. I have the property immediately to the east, bordering the lot. Right there.
Very good.
I'm a little puzzled as to why the jog goes back over and takes some of the front yard of the home. Carolyn's sister Annette Sanderson lives around the corner, and she told me that the family's desire was to keep that property a showcase, have it as well kept up as Boyd did. And I would be supportive of that, but they're taking part of the front yard from that home, which the prospective buyer is going to probably be a little unhappy about that, and it's going to restrict probably who would be willing to buy that property. Aside from the fact that virtually the yard is much smaller than Boyd had it. My biggest concern, I suppose, is 3 doors down from a further east is a corner property that has become a bit of a junkyard. And I think you're probably aware of that situation. And it's a home business. The guy has, he does a lot of remodeling for people, and then he hangs on to the leftover stuff and the salvage stuff. And it's become a bit of an eyesore. And I was concerned that this property might become that same sort of a thing. I don't know if they're planning for more than just a home there on this new lot, or if they're going to be parking business vehicles there. I was curious to know why the jog back, if that's to give them more parking for business vehicles or whatever. Across the street south, there's a large property there that has a business centered there, and they have people, a number of cars that park along the street. Their company business vehicles are kept inside the yard, and they've fenced that off so it doesn't look all that bad. But down on the corner and around the corner, there are duplexes that are rental units, and 2 of them adjacent to each other have cars, trailers, far in excess of what they can park on the property, and so they park in front of other properties up and down the street. And that's become a bit of an eyesore. And I was just wanting to be sure that that isn't what we're going to be getting here.
Okay. All
So
right.
that's my concern.
I appreciate that. We'll discuss that with planning here in just a second. We'll see. We'll get you some answers to the extent that we can here.
I'm sorry, I don't
So
hear well.
we're going to respond to that in just a minute. Thank
Very
you so
good.
much.
Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else from the public? All right. Brittany, I did see your email, and I flashed through my phone. It was. I know. That's where I just wanted to check. I saw that there was an online message I wasn't able to see. It came in the last 60 minutes. Which item is it? Okay, so I will look forward to you sharing that with us when we get there. All right, that's flagged. Great. Okay. Seeing no further commentary from the public, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Real quickly, though, let's address what Mr. Hall and Mr. Grover were both bringing up. I believe that I want to make sure we address their concerns to the extent we can. They are also not technically connected with this application. Would I be right in that? Nonetheless, it sounds like Mr. Grover, if there is a business that's operating beyond what public surface parking permits, that is something that you can bring to the city's attention, and citations do occur. I've seen that happen. So if you've got a neighbor that is that's chronically doing that, that's something that you'd like to flag for the city, you're welcome to do that. And then I guess we took Mr. Hall's inquiry on the fence line, but that also doesn't touch this jog. So that'll fall to the neighbors. Is there anything I'm missing in that?
So to answer the question about the jog in the property line,
Yeah.
there's an addition that they put onto this home. In fact, part of it, they have a deck that they're going to need to tear down to make the subdivision work. But the reason the lot line jogs like that is so that they can pick up the required frontage on the front of the lot. This is a kind of an unusual. This was actually a subdivided lot years and years ago. The same person bought both lots and just had one, kind of a combined yard. Now they want to split it back off, but because of that addition, that's why the jog is in there. So it widens back out at the street on frontage on 600 North to pick up the lot frontage.
And to Mr. Grover's concern, this would be disclosed to any buyer that there's a funky jog.
Yeah. Whoever buys lot 1 is going to have to know their front yard tapers a bit.
Yep.
Yeah. But they do meet the lot size and frontage requirements, so it just takes it took a little bit of creativity for them to basically re-subdivide this lot.
Okay, very good.
Kim, could a home be built on that lot too?
Yeah, we did look at the building envelope. It would, either they'd have to set it back a little
But that
bit.
goes against our design standards, right?
Not for
To have a
homes.
deep setback?
That's more for commercial businesses. We don't have a maximum setback as long as they meet the rear yard.
Right.
But they could fit, there are some newer homes that we've been seeing built on some of these narrower lots. You have lots that are 40 feet wide that still accommodate a pretty large single-family home. So yeah, even with the pinch in that, it would just have to be a narrower, deep but narrow footprint. So it is buildable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Mr. Chair, so they could build a home in the pinch area?
No.
As long as they have the side yard
They
setback.
could still do it there.
Yeah.
So it could still be close to the road, or they could do a flag lot essentially, right? Put a access to the back.
Put it more towards the
Yeah.
north.
I mean, for the sake of technicalities, it's not a flag lot, but I get what you mean, right? Kind of the
Yeah.
idea that it opens up as it goes back. Yeah. So it meets code, and I would encourage both of the gentlemen, Mr. Hall, Mr. Grover, the issues raised in not that I heard them necessarily objecting, but wanting to bring up these neighborly issues as this goes forward. If there are concerns about parking in excess of what is permitted by Lehi, do let us know here at the city. And also, I'd have that conversation with the neighbors about the fence there, sir. Okay. As I see it, though, it looks like this does indeed meet code, and I mean, I'm happy to entertain a motion, or if there's more discussion, sure, but
Can I make a motion?
by all means.
All right, let's make a motion. Make a motion that we move to approve the proposed plat amendment. This is item 4.1
There we go.
of the regular agenda. We move to approve the proposed plat amendment, include the DRC comments. We feel that this meets the requirements of the development code and any other findings that came up.
Second. You can have
Brent did have it. To be fair, it was down to the wire, but I'm gonna let Kate make the decision. Motion and a second. All's in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Very good. Motion passes. Item 4.2.
Item 4.2, public hearing in consideration of the final Spur Ranch concept plan of 14-lot residential development located at 2424 West, 900 North. So that's 14 single-family lots. This is coming to you just for feedback on the layout and lot size. It does not meet the current, so it's currently zoned TH5. So before any development can happen, it'll have to be rezoned. The general plan is very low-density residential agriculture, the LDRA, which would allow for R122 zoning, so 22,000 square foot, like half-acre lots. And the applicant is showing lots that are more in the range of RA1, 15,000 square foot lots. There's a range of sizes. The smallest is 15,000, but going up from there. And the applicant feels like this would fit well in the area because College Farms surrounds it, and College Farms is a PRD, so they did the 10% open space as part of that. This is only 7.17 acres, so it's smaller than the 10 acres. It'd be hard to put open space in this, but they feel like it fits into the surrounding area and could be good. So this is kind of an interesting one where it doesn't meet the general plan or the zoning right now. Kind of more just seeking feedback on if you like the idea and the concept of it. With that, I'll turn it back to the commission for any questions.
All right, questions for staff?
What is sorry, I have a question for staff.
You don't have to apologize. I have a question for staff.
What is the TH5 that's, I don't know which direction we're going. Is this east? Do you,
It's just holding TH.
yeah, no, what is the one,
Oh.
not their parcel, but the one that's kind of,
surrounding area.
yeah, the
what
surrounding
College
area that's
Farms
TH5.
is. I believe that is all R122 because they did it as a PRD, so it keeps like the underlying zoning, but then they cluster density so that it they have flexibility with lot size and setbacks so that they can do the open space as well. But yeah, let's see.
No, I'm not talking about the final spur concept. Can you,
So College Farms around it, yeah.
is that the
It's
other
called College
TH5 over there?
Oh, this TH5?
Yes, that one.
And your question with that?
Yeah, like what is that?
Transitional holding.
Right, but who, does someone else have a plan for that area? So in their proposal, they're saying we're surrounded by similar, but this is pretty close. It's touching, and it's open space. And I'm wondering if someone else has a concept coming for that.
No.
Yeah. Nope, that hasn't been proposed for any development, and it's all VLDRA in that area, so, yeah.
Okay.
Would we require a stub for connectivity to the other transitional holding? Or why wouldn't we require a stub, I guess?
I'm trying to remember if there's an existing home, if there's existing development and it, if the road would end up going into a home, which it sounds like there is, that would be why our connectivity standards do allow exceptions for existing development. So say those were subdivided lots, it just closes off that opportunity for a stub street. Normally that would, but yeah, because of existing development, I think, I'm trying to remember if we flagged that in our DRC comments, but.
Because of that property right there?
Mm-hmm.
So there's no connecting the little parcel that's on 900 with the main. Those are not connected by any roads, right?
Yeah.
The only entrance is 250
They're in College Drive.
and College Drive.
Too, yeah.
Is that 250? What does that say?
25.
2550. Okay. Sorry. I'm seeing double.
I think as far as roadways, there's really no other alternatives
No.
because it's been surrounded with subdivision or that existing home. So it's really just a matter of lot size. This concept, like Brittany said, has lots smaller than what would be allowed under the general plan. So they would have to come through with a general plan amendment. They actually filed a general plan amendment concurrent with this. But when it got to DRC, we're not in that window yet. February will be when we consider general plan amendments again. So we just put that application on hold, or told them you'll have to bring that back in a couple of months. So.
Well, essentially, they're asking for a density boost. What are they asking for? What are they allowed, and what are they asking for?
So 22,000 square feet is what the minimum would be under today's general plan. They're asking for this, more like third acre RA1 type. So to go from 22,000, if we changed the general plan and they rezoned it to RA1, the minimum lot size is 15,000 square feet versus 22,000.
So
It's like from 11 lots at 22,000 to 14 lots with the variable sizes, some larger.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, I think 12 to 14.
So are we giving final approval or
No,
just
no,
feedback?
this is just concept.
Just a recommendation.
Gotcha. Okay.
Or, let's see.
Yeah, you do have final vote, but it is kind of a weird one because you can't really approve it because it doesn't meet the general plan or the zoning.
And
In the
let's
required action.
keep in
consider.
mind, because we've done this dance, it's a concept plan, so it's only concept, but if we approve, that also gives,
Some vesting.
so it's,
Beware unintended
exactly,
consequences.
exactly. So on that ominous note, if there are no further questions for staff, shall we hear from you? Oh, there is?
Go ahead.
No, no,
Sorry.
no.
No applicant is
Let's do it.
appropriate.
Let's do it. The applicant's present, sir. Please state your name.
My name is Jaron Davis. I'm from Holiday in Salt Lake County. I'm a friend of the Bishop family who has asked me to help them with this subdivision. And I think it would be helpful first for the commission to understand a little bit of the history here. In the early 1990s, the Bishop family living on State Street in American Fork decided they wanted to live out a life dream, which was to raise cattle. So they bought this acreage here and have raised as many as 30 cows on the property and had horses. And that has been a glorious opportunity for the family, kept beef in the freezer and been something that they've cherished, but the world grew up around them. And now they're in a position where having cows and having horses on the property is a little bit of a hindrance. Occasionally the horses will get out and Terry has to go over and fix some lawn because they'll walk on the neighbor's lawn or do some things like that. So it's not a matter of them wanting to leave, it's a matter of them being a little bit uncomfortable with the current situation as it relates to having that farm in now a residential community. One of the reasons we're presenting this to you today is that the bishops really didn't have any input on where these roads came in. We designed 2 site plans, engineered site plans for this site. The one that complied with the zoning, actually, that you have, and I don't know if you're able to put that up, Kim.
It's not in their packet. So,
Okay.
Yeah,
The design that we had that has the 12 lots honestly isn't something that I think you'd be proud of in Lehi City. To get the lot size, we're much bigger on that. If you see College Road is further north, and so it puts the frontages of those lots wider than what a nice residential home would be. So when you talk about this gentleman that talked about the frontage on the road and having it nice, one of the things that happens is when you have too much, then you just kind of forget about that extra piece. And so we had the engineers design something that complied with as much of that zoning as we could. So we went from 12 lots that the subdivision really doesn't look that wonderful to these 14. And we have no interest in going more than the 14. Commission Chair, I understand the idea of putting yourself in a quagmire as it relates to approving the concept plan. What we didn't want to do is spend a lot of time and energy on something that you wouldn't have any taste for at all. So while we don't expect a vote from what I just heard from you, we would like some feedback as it relates to our ambitions to accomplish something like this, because we'll go to a great deal of expense to be met with resistance versus coming up to something that is friendly, that works within the community. So know that the bishops want to have this be something that they're able to look back on with pride, having been their family farm. We want to have it fit in the community. Our ambitions are sincere, and if we had that other, maybe Kim, you could address it, if you had that other site plan, you'd see exactly what I'm talking about. We go from 12 lots that have some that are really not very functional to 14 that are very functional, that meet today's market demands, et cetera. And Gary was very nice to point out to us in the DRC meeting that the roadway width has changed since these roads were put in, and so that one of the things that's wrong on our concept plan is that we need to widen the road. And you might remember, Gary, is it a couple feet?
I think
2 feet-ish. So we'd have to go in on those streets and then widen into those. So do you have any questions for me before I sit down?
I have a question.
Please.
So, Mr. Davis, I just want to make sure I'm clear that, because we haven't seen the 12 lot versus the 14 lot. I'm trying to imagine why you would say that it wouldn't be very functional in appearance or even utility to have the 12 that fits the zoning currently, and then you don't have to worry about a general plan amendment. Would it pencil with a 12 lot subdivision, or is this the need to get 14 to make it work?
Brent, I don't think that it would be too shocking for you to hear that Terry gets his door beat down and his phone ringing all the time from people wanting the parcel. It really is a matter of functionality and having something that is appealing and leaving the community with something that mirrors. If you could expand out, you'd see that these lots actually fit into the community quite well. An example of some of the differences between these lots and the other lots, besides the ones on the north side of the property that go quite wide in frontage, is that we really are put in a position where we might only have one lot on that corner section. So we're just, with that magic of 22,000 square feet, it just puts us in a position where it's very difficult to do something that fits into the subdivision. And I think the average of I should have averaged the square footages, but the average of the square footages, we're not that far off. We have a couple lots because of the cul-de-sac that you know, what's that, one at 15,000, one just over 15,000, one at 17, two at 15. So that, yeah, there's a lot of them are really close to what the ideal is. Does that answer, Brent?
Well, I'm going to push back a little bit because
Okay.
the surrounding areas also were required to dedicate 10% to open space, even though it's still zoned R122. And so, and I read in the report that you don't feel you have the space to be able to do that. And so to say that you're comparing it to the ones nearby, maybe lot size on average, but not community in terms of open space availability. So I kind of want to softly reject that argument for the 14 versus the 12, and we have, you can do a 12. I think it's a matter of opinion on whether or not a larger size lot on that north side that's wider is less functional or less appealing. There are several neighborhoods in Lehi that have lots that are wider than they are deep, and it seems to have allowed for beautiful homes to be built.
Yeah.
Granted, there's side yard that needs to be taken care of, but I'm trying to wade through the reasons, and I don't think you can compare apples to oranges because there was a dedication of open space with some of that College Farms area, I believe. That's right, Kim? Yeah.
Brent, if I can debate with you without any confrontation, because
I won't take it personally.
Perfect, because I can see what you're saying. I actually served in my community on a planning commission. When we talked about putting in something like that with Katie, which, by the way, is a remarkable employee of the city, it would have fallen back behind the 3 lots and would have been a tot lot. And in every experience that I've ever had, whether in real estate development or as a community participant, those tot lots just don't quite work. And so because we're small enough under that 10 acres, our own open space doesn't make a lot of sense. But here's the other point I think that's really important, Brent. I don't think anyone in those communities is going to say to these 14 people, don't come use the open space that's available in the community. So while we didn't contribute to those open spaces, our residents would be somebody who participates in those open spaces in a meaningful way, and the lots don't change from what the community has and accepts. And so my argument, Brent, would be that we can use those spaces. We don't have enough real estate to use our own, and we don't end up with something that is big and unusable. And I don't want to say to your community, I've been to South Jordan and to Draper, who always fought against having the acre lots. I don't want to fight against that. But where the market is today is wanting something that is smaller so that you're not spending so much money on the water and you don't have unusable space. We still have lots that are very appealing to the marketplace, but haven't been forced to go outside of what would be a norm because of a requirement to have that 22,000 square feet.
Well, I appreciate your explanations.
No, yeah. Well, thank you for taking it.
That's what this is for.
Yeah.
Yep. Anything else from Mr. Davis? And Mr. Davis, please know that I just want to make sure that more junior members of the commission understand the significance. We will vote. That is absolutely going to happen here this evening.
Oh.
But I just want them to always understand, what their vote's going to mean. So,
May I offer one friendly suggestion from our side?
by all means, sir.
One of the positions of the we've taken the opportunity to visit with some of your elected officials. One thing that we'd be willing to do is say that we don't want more than 14 lots. Our ambition isn't to do anything different than what we're presenting, other than to make the changes that are necessary to meet the current code. So we would place on ourselves a restriction. In other words, if we went to a zoning that allowed for 15,000 square foot lots, we're not going to come back and try to jam more down the throat. So if it is something that you can see that is reasonable in our request, place a restriction on us that there will never be more than 14 lots, and we'd be happy with that.
I'm not sure that we can actually do that ourselves. That would require you to go to city council and hash out there. But I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Jackson, Chairman Jackson, that would be a development agreement.
Correct. Yeah.
Got to get it right.
What's that?
Got to get the title right.
I'm sorry. Hash out a deal was not the technical term. It is a development agreement. All right. This is a public hearing. So if there's anyone from the public who'd like to speak to this item, now's the time.
I'm Blondell Clement, and I actually live just east of where this will be. I'm back in the cul-de-sac on the north side. That's my narrow strip there. Anyway, we still have horses, and we still train rope horses most of the time in the summertime. I do have a water system in the arena, so we do try to keep the dust down and everything. So, but my main reason here tonight is we would like to be able to have a 6-foot fence put in behind us from Brock Worthen's place to the north, just on that west area, just so we don't have kids coming in and getting into the animals and getting hurt. So Brock put in a cement fence, but I'd at least like to have some kind of a 6-foot fence or whatever would be there, just so we don't have kids get hurt, because there's a lot of young kids in that area and
Sure.
will be in that area. And that's my concern. As far as the lots are concerned, I know the green space isn't in there, but with the limited amount of space there, that doesn't bother me. So just so Mr. Bishop knows that I'm not going to complain about that. So anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Clement. Anyone else from the public?
I guess I'm not technically public, but I'm in between the two.
Well, we'll allow in between
Thank
the two
you
to
so
speak
much.
as well,
I'm
sir.
Terry Bishop is my name.
Very good.
One just quick little note that I would like to see pointed out is a lot of these lots do conform to what's right now and what it is. There's, I think, 5 or 6 of those actually conform to the square footage. The 2 lots that Jaron had mentioned on the far west, southwest corner there, because of the way those 2 roads come in, I either have to sell that as a 0.9 of an acre single lot, or not at all, if this does not go through, because that's the way those roads are. You cannot get 2 lots in there that would conform to the R22 that the city would like. Although they're both close, but they can't be done if that way. It's put me in a bind with the way the roads are there, and back to the one comment that was asked, if we could go through, if that was going to ever be able to go through. That was originally their plan until Brock Worthen bought the place and put a big old home at the end of that. So it changed the way we could do things with the property. There's been a lot of decisions made for us by the city. We moved out there when there was only like 8 homes. Mr. Clements was one of the only ones out there and with us, and we appreciate him. And the fence is not at all unreasonable. We'd be glad to take care of that. But thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public or in between? Of course. All right. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission. Sure.
I mean, on paper, 12 to 14 is not an unreasonable ask, but when they brought up the history of the property, that this was a place that had animals, that does become more of a significant ask, because now you are limiting the animals that could be on this property. At a half acre and bigger, 22,000 and bigger, you can have an animal on your property. Any of these lots would be able to have animal rights. This would significantly reduce that. And I think the history of the property or the heritage of this area should be to honor what the zoning calls for, right? Which is giving people opportunities to own animals in this area if they want them. This would limit future buyers' potentials to have an animal, a large animal on their property. So as far as the history and heritage of the property, I think it is a disservice to jump to 14 because it does limit or remove some of that heritage from the area. That would be my thoughts.
I had a question for staff. Can Mr. Clement request an 8-foot fence? Does it? Right, but so you'd only want a 6-foot fence? 6 is fine.
Yeah, we can only require, our agricultural no climb is 6 feet.
Okay.
We can only really require 6 feet. They could work out a deal, but it would require.
But this is like a solid. This is it.
Our agricultural no climb fence isn't it doesn't have to be cement or something like that. It just
Okay.
has to have like the privacy slats and stuff.
We're very
And they could
specific
work
about
out something else. if
fences
they
now.
needed to.
They can work it out between the two of them.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
actually just an ag fence. There's no, it's not a visually obscuring fence. It's like chain link, but it's 2x4 vertical mesh. It has the top rails and posts like a chain link fence.
Okay.
But the mesh fabric is just, that's why they call it no climb, because it's 2 inches wide, 4 inches tall, so it's hard to get your feet in it to climb. But it's just an ag fence is our baseline requirement, unless they, as neighbors, agree to something different.
Thank you.
Ken, Brent, any reactions, thoughts?
Well, it's going to be contingent upon the changing of the general plan, which that bar can be pretty high for some. I prefer the 12 lot. I think you can get it. I'm trying to figure out the reasoning. It still doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I asked if it would pencil as a 12 lot. Didn't get an answer to that. But that doesn't have to come before us. But I'm just trying to figure out the reality. To describe a lot as not functional because it's wider just doesn't make sense to me, because I see that. We've done that throughout the city in many places with beautiful homes built. It's just a different perspective from the front to see it wider than it is deep. And I feel it's unfortunate that road has to be wider, and that, you know, standards changed from when they bought the property and the connection to College Drive. I think that's what it was called. But I empathize with that, but not to the point where I'm considering 14.
Changing the general plan, yeah.
Yeah.
Other,
It looks like there's some buildings already on these 3 lots to the southwest or southeast. I guess they're going to have to come.
There's a home, there's a large hay barn, and there's also 3 other sheds.
I imagine they will go away to.
Much to my dismay.
Yeah.
The hay barn, and my dad and I built that one piece at a time.
I'm afraid not, sir. The public. We open a can, we do that. Let's just go ahead and do it. I will go ahead and reopen public comment for it. Come on up, Mr. Clement.
As far as the general plan goes, that road that was actually was supposedly going to go to the east actually went right through my garage. So, you know, I don't know. I'm just saying that just so you know, because that wasn't the general plan when we built our house. That come after. So if you look at the plan on that thing, it goes right through my garage, because it goes to the 95 or the 9550 road across the street, which would have took out basically my garage and my house. So that's how come
Sure.
It's this other direction right now.
Real quick, Mr. Clement, that's currently on the plan.
That was currently on the plan last time I seen the plan.
Okay.
Yes.
You still have your garage?
Yes, I
for the
still have my
moment here.
garage.
Okay.
So,
Very good.
okay.
I would hope that would never happen without your blessing. That would require eminent domain, and that would not. Well, it would happen without my blessing. I'll tell you that right now. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else from the public, seeing as public commentary has been reopened? Come on up, Mr. Bishop. I feel you itching. What you got?
He can come back up
I was
anyway.
going to say, it just made me kind of smile because, ladies and gentlemen, when we bought this out here, none of this was on the general
Sure.
plan. The whole city ended clear back by the railroad tracks almost, and we're a mile from that. And we never envisioned being in a subdivision. We were in the middle of 200 acres of alfalfa. And we were encroached upon. We were, everybody came into us. But back to, and I appreciate the fact that you opened us back up. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You're
to
technically
address
the applicant.
It's
you
true.
could
So
come up
you
again
can
anyway.
technically
could I?
be brought up repeatedly. Yeah.
That tells you how naive I was.
No,
But,
that's all right.
But Tyson, the one thing, and it does, it breaks my heart about the animals, but the people that have moved in out there, they've made this such a large home mecca out there that the home behind me is like, I think 18,000 square feet. The homes across the streets that Cadence built, there is not one animal, not one large animal in the whole subdivision. There's 84 homes there. Not one large animal in that whole subdivision. Right now I have 3 horses and 6 cows on this property. I hate to see it go too, I really do. But realistically, as I look around, people are not interested in bringing animals. The Clemenses, I've admired them for years. We go out and used to go out and watch them rope all the time because that's what they did. And so as much as I'd love to see people be able to have, and myself included, my wife's trying to talk me into keeping the hay barn, by the way, and that lot, and building her a house so that I could stay there. And I would keep a single horse there or 2. But most people are not interested in that. They're interested in pickleball courts and swimming pools and tennis courts and all those things. And I appreciate that stuff. That's fine. They can afford the money that it costs to be there, so they deserve to do what they want to do with it at that point. But there is, as I mentioned, several of the lots that would allow someone to move in there and still have a large animal. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Now we'll go ahead and officially reclose public hearing. Commission?
I don't feel like we should be punishing Mr. Bishop for being the last one standing in this area. Like he says, everybody else around him sold earlier, and he was keeping the dream alive. Anyway, I feel like they've done their homework and they've tried to make it fit, and I can appreciate that he's now doing what all of his neighbors have already done.
I'll say that Mr. Bishop I did not grow up here. My father-in-law was, he was a 5th generation Lehi, so I have become well acquainted with the history of this town, and of course very sympathetic to the way this place has shifted. yeah, he remembers the Lehi that you remember as well. Nonetheless, the general plan, I of course can't speak for what was done in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and so on, but it comes up every 10 years, and sometimes more often than that, with the intent that we as citizens are supposed to come get our say at that time. And that is, again, not to say that it cannot be amended. It absolutely can, and this is your right to ask for this. For me, I can't say that I see something that is so compelling to the best interest of the city that it would call for making an amendment. I feel like the general plan needs to be largely respected unless there's a massively outsized reason to shift it. Anyhow, I think that is where I'm coming down currently, and is of course absolutely fine. My colleagues in a different place. Any other reactions, or does anyone want to put a motion forward? Where are we at?
Another question, if I may.
Please.
So the lots surrounding this piece, these lots would be roughly the same size? Are they that much smaller? I'm trying to figure out, because for me, I'm thinking 12 to 14, not that big a difference, but to continue to fill the neighborhood, I think those lots should match what's existing.
Yeah, so it, I guess, depends on the area. You know, these are like 0.38 acres. There's a range of sizes around it. These ones are all 0.5. Yeah, so, I mean, coming up here more, you're getting more to the smaller, well, these are still like third acre. Yeah.
So I have to apologize for my math skills because I don't have many, but converting from 12,000 square foot lot to a third of an acre, what is a third of an acre in square footage?
It's
About 15,000.
a little
Okay.
over the 15,000.
All right, thanks for doing the math. Okay.
An exact third of an acre is 14,520. So,
There you go.
yeah. Basically, R112 is 0.25, R115 is 0.34-ish, and then R122, 0.5, a little over 0.5 acres.
So generally, this area is 0.3.
Yeah,
It's
a lot
third
of
of an
those,
acre.
because, as Brittany explained, it's a PRD, so it has the same underlying half-acre zone, but they have some open spaces that they dedicated, so those lot sizes shrunk because some of it was preserved as open space.
Yeah, they have this corner. This is the open space that College Farms did, and it is private. It's HOA. It's not public open space, but
River, the big piece
Yeah.
by the river.
So to match what's existing in the neighborhood, they need us to say, yeah, this is good. You can do this without having the open space. Because that's how College Farms got the smaller lots, was by doing the open space.
yeah.
Am I tracking correctly?
Yeah, so I guess they would be coming for a general plan amendment and a zone change to go to like RA1, where this is R122, but they did it as a PRD with the open space, which is how they got the smaller lots.
And I just want to make a comment that I think we got to be careful what we're saying to match. That's already zoned R122. So it matches everything around it. They want to change that. It just so happens that because they went to the PRD, some of the neighboring properties have some smaller lots, but they also have some large half-acre lots.
Hey,
And then
It's
and
not
to go to
zoned.
Commissioner Kuhn's point, he has the same opportunity to develop this as an R122 as all his neighbors did prior to this. But they prefer a different lot size because they feel it's not as marketable, I guess, as the half-acre lot wider than it is deep. And that's their preference, right? So I just want to make sure that we're talking apples to apples, not apples to oranges. It's got the same opportunity. It's already zoned. It might be a little bit different in the PRD, but that's because there's dedicated open space as part of that subdivision. They can't do that with the size of the parcel that they have. So that's the real constraint, I believe, and then their personal desires for marketability. So I noticed the question of will it pencil wasn't necessarily answered. So I don't know if 12 to 14 makes a difference in whether they can make it happen or not. But I agree with you, Commissioner Jackson, that for a general plan amendment, I don't hear of anything for the future, which doesn't matter in my case because I won't be here, as to whether or not that would be justification, because I think the bar is pretty high for changing the general plan. We just went through this not long ago. We changed the general plan, was it 2021? 2022, 3 years ago. So there was an opportunity then for public comment to change that to a future use under that zoning. But the city, in its wisdom, left it at R122.
Right.
So
Just to correct, maybe I misunderstood, but it's not zoned, right? It's transitional holding.
well, it's TH5.
But it is.
But it's
general
plan.
plan.
It's what the general plan calls for.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not zoned.
No, it's not zoned.
122.
No.
Okay.
So, yeah, what we're
Thank you. Good clarification.
Yeah, what we're considering would be a concept plan that would require a different zoning from what is called for on the general plan, but it's currently still holding. Yeah.
And that would be an administrative action. That's an easy bar to change from TH5 to R122.
Yeah.
Because it's already designated that. in the
It's
general
already
plan.
designated, and so, yeah, there's the invested right. Boom.
The water dedication.
Yep. So, Mr. Davis, as applicant, yes, sir, come on up, but let's do it to the microphone. Let's make it nice and public.
Brent, I love friendly debating you.
I got no dog in this fight other
We
than
don't.
I care about the city.
We're designing this around a road being in the wrong location, centering up to the parcel. So we're trying to deal with something that was presented to us that's a difficulty. If that road were centered on the 7 acres coming in, we wouldn't have an issue. But to give you an idea of what I'm talking about on those lots, we're over 170 feet wide and we're 134 feet deep. And on the corner, on the southwest corner, we're 232 feet wide by 130 feet deep. So if you think about the frontage of your own home, it's just not what is happening in the market today. We don't have frontages that are 30, 40 feet wider than we are deep. And that's our issue. We're addressing where that road comes in, pure and simple.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if there's more discussion to be had, fine. I'm happy to entertain a motion. I appreciate very much your last point there, Mr. Davis. I personally do not find it sufficient to change what's called for in the general plan. But let's have a vote and see how all the other commissioners feel, or we can continue to discuss. But I am nudging. if no one's taking the hint.
Is that what you're doing?
Well, of course, let's discuss if there's more points to be made. It seems to me like, wow, we've hit a point of circular discussion.
All right, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Item 4.2, public hearing consideration of Final Spur Ranch's concept plan, a 14-lot residential development located at 2424 West, 900 North. Move that we decline, or that we deny the concept plan with the findings that the proposed concept is not consistent with the Lehi City Development Code, that the proposed concept does not conform to the goals and policies of the general plan. And I will include any DRC comments.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion and second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. 4-1. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm sorry I didn't cut your way, but we appreciate you.
Well, this was for feedback.
Yeah.
So you've got feedback.
Yes, absolutely. We look forward to seeing you again.
And the vote doesn't really matter much.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Item 4.3.
Item 4.3, public hearing and consideration of Richard Thurman's request for preliminary subdivision approval of Epiphany Point, a 3-lot residential development located at 913 and 939 East Cedar Hollow Road. So you've seen this before. It came for a conditional use flag lot in November 2024. And it has to come back as a preliminary since there's 3 lots instead of, when it's a flag lot that's a 2-lot subdivision, it's just administrative approval after that. So that's why you're seeing it again. The zoning on this is R1 Flex, which all of these lots meet the minimum 8,000 square foot lot size and the 80 feet of frontage. The flag lot has the 20 feet of frontage, which does create a really mega drive access, but according to the code, the flag lot has to have the 20 feet. So that's the way it is. And with that, I'll turn it back to the commission for any questions.
Very good. Questions for staff? All right.
They both still meet the frontage, right? I think that's what I read in the report. I just want to make sure.
All of them have, yep.
Okay.
Very good. Should we get to the applicant then? The applicant's present.
The applicant's online.
Ah, very good. Ah, yes. Sir, if you care to speak to this item, now would be the time. Just go ahead and state your name. We see it there, but you'll say it for the record, and feel free to say whatever you like. Pertinent to the item.
Well, hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm attending from Arizona. We'll be in Utah next week.
Very good.
I think my only concern is what was just stated, that we're going to end up with a 40-foot driveway. Part of the driveway includes a little easement from Lot 1, and the only way around that I see is to maybe move it over a few feet so there's more easement from Lot 1 and leave a little more breathing room with the house on Lot 3. We are looking forward to taking advantage of the placing of the overhead electrical supply on Cedar Hollow Road to plumb and re-electrify this old 100-year-old farmhouse with access from that easement to the west side of the house instead of the rather precarious 10-foot high supply that's on the east side now. But that's my only concern. If there's any way we could move that line over a little bit, but I do understand the requirements of the flag lot.
Thank you.
I have a question. Are you asking about moving it from what is presented here, or what are you asking, I guess?
I'm wanting to know if the driveway could be moved to the west, so there was a little bit more of the easement on Lot 1, so it's not encroaching so much on the house on Lot 3.
Kim, do you want to speak to this at all?
Kim, how much wiggle room do they have?
Yeah, there's not a lot of wiggle room, and maybe, I don't know if Gary wants to add anything else.
I saw the solemn nod from Gary.
Yeah, the challenge is we've got to keep the lot frontage on Lot 1. It still has to meet the frontage requirement. We can't have 2 lots that are below the frontage. So you got to keep, it's got to be 80 feet. So we got, I guess, 1.42 feet to play with. And then you've got to have the 20 feet that is owned and dedicated to the flag lot. So there's just only so much frontage there that you can adjust. From a practical standpoint, it would be nice if they could just share the same driveway, but to meet our development code standards for those lots, you've really only got a foot and some change there to play with.
Yeah, that is the issue, and that's why we rezoned it. So I guess we're pretty tight on making any adjustments.
Well, Mr. Thurman, you've got about a foot.
But take an inch, you know how it goes.
Wow. All right. Mr. Thurman, anything else at this point?
No, I think everything else has been pretty well hashed out. We appreciate Brittany's help with this, and Scott Carlson, I think, has done a great job.
Very good. Thank you. All right, then. This is a public hearing, so let's go ahead and move into that. If there's anyone from the public who'd like to speak to this item, now is the time. All right. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public hearing, bring it back to the commission for deliberation or a approving vote. Sorry, I loved the possible motions and findings that have been stated for us. The Planning Commission may provide a positive. Oh, forgive me. It did say negative. My brain read that as no. It was positive or positive, wasn't it?
You do have to approve it. You could require any modifications that are
Yes.
required by the code.
Oh, and of course, because there's no question here, but it meets code, so
I see what
it's
you're saying. We may approve or approve with code.
There it is. Yeah, it's. I mean, yes, legally that is exactly right, but it's funny. Appreciate the sense of humor.
Just trying to remind you.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Why don't you go ahead and make the motion?
Yeah, 4.3, public hearing consideration of Richard Thurman's request for preliminary subdivision approval of Epiphany Point. I move that we that we approve. Yeah.
Yes.
Move that we approve the preliminary subdivision with the findings that the proposed subdivision does meet the frontage and size requirements of the R1 flex zone and the previously approved flag lot. And I will include all DRC comments.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Mr. Thurman, come to Utah next week confident knowing that this has moved forward.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Have a great night. Okay. Item 4.4.
Item 4.4, public hearing and recommendation of staff's request for review of the Thanksgiving Station Development Agreement located on approximately 26 acres in the Thanksgiving Point area. The purpose of this development agreement is it's one of the required elements to getting the HTRZ funding. So this does that, and then it also includes some additional requirements over the Thanksgiving Station area plan, I guess. We'll mention that staff has some unaddressed concerns with this still. And it kind of does get into some deep legalese, so I am not going to try and summarize it. I will leave that to the applicant and to legal to give more information onto the exact details. With that, I'll turn it over to the commission.
Very good. Well, questions for staff. Sounds like Brittany would rather those be questions for legal, but okay. We'll go ahead and get to the applicant. Oh, Brent?
No, it's for the applicant.
Okay, very good. I'm going to go on a limb and say the applicant's present.
Hey, good to see you again. Mark Murdoch with the Gardner Group, 201 South Main Street, Salt Lake City. Tonight with me, I have Ryan Thomas and Dave Dennison. Ryan is with Stack, and Dave is with Gardner. And before I turn the time over to them to answer any questions, because they know a little bit more of the minutia than I do on this, is we have been working on this, and Lehi has been awesome, and Marlon and everybody, for about 18 months. And just to remind everybody, we worked collectively with Kim and John Bankhead, if you remember John, back a while ago, to get the area plan approved. So that area plan was approved, and then we went to the HTRZ Commission. And that HTRZ Commission, for short terminology, is a way to set up a TIF. Well, when you get that approved, which we did, everybody was great. We went to Go-Yo, everything got approved. The mayor came, very helpful. You have to, in association with an HTRZ, do a development agreement. And that is this development agreement that we've been working on for 18 months or so now. So just to kind of refresh your memory of where we stand and what's been going on. So I'm going to turn it over to Ryan and Dave if you guys have specific questions, which I'm sure you will, but we can answer them. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. Ryan Thomas, Stack Real Estate. Excited to be here with you for this final piece of the Thanksgiving Station transit-oriented community. What I had prepared about 5 slides for, Mark just said in 30 seconds. He's pretty good at stealing my thunder that way.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fantastic. But happy to dive into any questions. I have some slides here for visuals if that's at all helpful to touch on some of these topics. But if you guys are good with it, I'd say let's just get right into the questions.
I just had a quick question. Under the definitions, and I left my notes at home, unfortunately, but it talks about the something HTRZ, is that what it is,
Yeah,
right?
Housing and Transit Reinvestment
Will be
Zones.
identified or defined in section 6.3. So I went to section 6.3, and I can't really see where there's a definition. I mean, you could easily include the statutory definition, because I know this is fairly newly created in state statute. But I thought for purposes of the public, to have that mentioned as being defined somewhere, but not having it actually defined somewhere, maybe we could add that definition of some sort?
I think that's a fair point. I think what it's referring to is the HTRZ Act right there, the defined term, which is speaking to the state legislation on the housing transit reinvestment zones.
But if you want us to add it.
Yeah,
Well, I
totally.
think it would be
Totally
cleaner if we identify it under definitions. Doesn't say the act, it says HTRZ to
You're
be
right.
defined under 6.3.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I went there, it's not really defined.
Yeah.
So then I went to the statute. And to be honest with you, it's not really defined there either.
Gotcha.
And so,
We can clean that up, no problem.
those are the kind.
If you
and
want to
that's-
spend 4 or 5 hours, we can just go right through it right
Yeah.
now if you want to.
No, I don't want to do that. No. Save that for a January meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, very convenient of you.
Maybe when you're not here is what you're saying.
His term ends.
This is his
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
meeting.
Oh, I don't know. You might think otherwise later. Anyway, that's one. And then there's, man, this is pretty legal intense. I read through it twice.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I have any other specific questions, although there was some reference to Clubhouse Drive. And I think is the expectation that the city puts that in.
Happy to add some color to that.
Yes, please explain
We
that.
have been asked by the city to support their efforts in Clubhouse Drive, in pushing that forward. What we have agreed to do is provide commercially reasonable efforts. If we're asked to come to a meeting, speak on behalf for anything that's beneficial for the city, we will gladly do that. We kind of sit in the middle of that. So we have agreed to do what we're asked to by the city. I would say it's not us pushing Clubhouse Drive. Clubhouse Drive is not a project road. Based off our area plan that's approved, the traffic triggers within it, Clubhouse Drive is not needed for this project. The replacement for that is 2100 North, the freewayization of that road. So just doing what we're asked is what I would say.
And then I have another question I want to get from your perspective.
Yeah.
Said that if, under this development agreement, if things aren't started up to 10 years out, then the agreement basically doesn't apply. I was wondering why such a long time frame and why not a shorter time frame? It seems like it would be in the best interest of the city to have that as a shorter time frame to get things started under this development agreement than a 10-year out window. Does that make sense?
And frankly, if you would have asked me that, I would have said it's 5 years. Is that? Did you remember 10? I thought it was 5. If it is 10, it is 10. Okay. Then happy to discuss that further. Take a recommendation on it. That's no
To your
big deal.
point, though, we are trying to start right now.
Yeah.
And we actually couldn't start this year or in this next year. It's a long story. We have to notify the landowner, but because we don't have this agreement done. So we actually are, hopefully, once this gets approved and we can move forward, we will start designing and start going. But yeah, we're wanting to go is the answer.
Yeah.
So you'd be amenable to changing that language to a shorter time frame?
Absolutely.
Okay. Love it. That's what I wanted to get from your perspective on that.
Yeah. Great question.
I'd love to see the slides. I'd love for the public to see the slides.
Yeah. How do I connect to this here?
home. It's not Brittany's first rodeo. What's that?
Brought to, I've learned my lesson.
Yeah. No. Good point. The visuals put us under item 4.5. Do they not?
The visuals are for Thanksgiving Station.
We're still okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They work for both, I would say.
Sure. Just trying to dot our I's and cross our T's.
THRZs.
That's right. I believe we call those umlauts when we start dotting these consonants.
Give me 2 seconds here. Is that coming through, or?
You could email it to us if we're excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be nice. So this is probably on my end. That's why I went with the Mac, or the...
He's on a Windows machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But got to adapt. The joys of adapters. Oh. Hey.
We're in business.
Let's do this.
So basically, these are kind of adapted to be whatever topic you'd like to cover here. This is just kind of an overview of the project there. One thing I think that's maybe worth highlighting that Mark touched on, like I said, this vision for this project started back in 2018. Some of you were around to remember those early concepts, 5,400 units, density north to south, all throughout Thanksgiving Point. We heard resoundingly that that is not what the city and that is certainly not what the residents wanted. So we went back to the drawing board, came back with the 2,000 unit concept that was approved in March 2022. That concept is what vested the 2,000 units, the development rights to this project. After getting the concept plan approved, we were asked to work with the city staff to amend what is the Thanksgiving Point area plan. And that is a 20-plus-year-old document, a couple hundred pages that needed to be basically made current, brought up today, and future-proofed for a development like this that'll last, a decade plus. So we worked diligently with Kim and his team, and gotta give them kudos. They sat down in 62 weekly calls with us. You may have seen this in my narrative. And in those weekly calls, we would go, okay, let's talk about the intro. Let's talk about utilities. We'd go through each section, collaborate, work on that together. Then we would take it to DRC. And every time we'd go into DRC, it felt like, almost ready to spike the football. Like, yes, we just got through one section. You'd go in that DRC meeting, leave with 30 comments. And it was back to the drawing board, working with consultants, collaborating in the next week's meeting with staff to work through each section by section of this area plan. I don't remember how many pages it is, but it's close to 200, and it covers everything from traffic triggers, roadway improvements needed by us, the developer, the city, UDOT MAG in collaboration, design standards, ordinances, land uses, you name it. Incredibly comprehensive. That is our governing document for this project. The development agreement, as Brittany touched on, adds additional rules, guidelines, strings to make sure that there is predictability in this project for Lehi City and us as the developer taking on a project that will take a decade plus. So that is the purpose of the development agreement. As you can see, I just put in some other numbers here just to show you what we've spent to date. When we received that concept plan approval, area plan approval, we were told we needed to purchase all of the water rights for all 2,000 units within 14 days. That was $5.4 million worth of water that we went ahead and purchased. About an additional $1.4 million in pursuit costs that we've paid to get to this point, working with those consultants. So as you can see, 7+ years, $6.8 million. We're extremely committed to this project. And like I said, that's where we're very excited to be here today to do this final piece. So that is the high-level overview of this project, and Mark touched on the HTRZ. If there's any questions on that, happy to elaborate, but essentially state legislation that densifies, that promotes density and smart development around key transit stations. To be frank, that legislation was pretty much written with a project like this at a key Silicon Slopes transit station in mind. So there is a high-level overview. This development agreement began in April 2024, 18 plus months ago. We've gone through 20 drafts. Involved with this has been everyone from the mayor, city manager, economic development, planning, engineering, in-house city attorney, outside counsel as well. So this has been vetted front to back many times. And like any good agreement, there's things that both of us like that we got, and there's certain things that, you know, not everyone's happy. That's the mark of a fair agreement, I would say. Anything else we can cover in that?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, if there's other topics, happy to go through them.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. Very good. This is a public hearing. So, does anyone from the public like to speak to this item? Now's the time. All right. Sir.
Hello, I'm William Harris. I live in Point Meadows subdivision. I've lived there since 2013, so just excited to see stuff moving, and hopefully you can iron out the details, the disagreements, and the legal language. Yeah, just want to commend the city on setting the triggers. 2300 Triumph, the redesign there seems to be working pretty well. Still backups, but hopefully with the new freeway coming in, that will help that. So just wanted to give my support and look, and I'm excited to see this moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rachel Freeman. My sister lives over by there, Thanksgiving Point, and she couldn't come, and asked me to come, and I've probably spoken to about 100 residents in the Thanksgiving Point area and the Holbrook area, which would be affected by Clubhouse Drive. I know that he said that the city, asked them on 6.2 to include Clubhouse Drive. However, many residents came out to oppose that previously at a MAG meeting, and MAG still remembers and notes the huge opposition of residents to Clubhouse Drive. So that's something to take into consideration. Also, I've had residents, like other citizens like me, be a little bit concerned and confused about some things, like about the transferring the taxing authority to a non-elected entity and how that would work, as well as the 50-year kind of vague wording on some of the things, specific obligations placed on the city, whereas, there's requirements for infrastructure. If you have how many thousand units and you're going to have how many kids in schools, but majority of the property tax will not be going to help with those schools. And just some things like that have been brought up to me with questions, and to be honest, I don't know how to answer them. So I'm bringing those questions to you. There's not a maximum dollar amount that's the city can pledge that's noted there, or in sales tax or anything like that. And these are just questions that have come to me. I'm just bringing them to your attention, and maybe some clarity and some would be great in this situation. Thanks.
Thank you.
Dear friends, Kenneth
Mr.
Lehi
Glad.
here. So good to see you this evening. This is probably, is this a surprise to you? How many times have you been briefed on the HRTZ zone? It sounds like it's fairly new to you. How many planning meetings or working meetings have you had on PIDs and the taxing authority that's being transferred, or the tax dollars, 80% of the tax dollars that are going to be sent to a private organization to recoup their investment over 25, 45, 50 years. It's a little bit confusing in there. There's a lot of legal language. With the amount of questions that there are, it seems like as they'd like to create a context where they've had so many conversations, and this has been going on for so long, that it's obviously so well planned out at this point, we should just be moving forward. But I'm concerned that there might be a couple people that understand what's going on, but the vast majority of the people don't know what's going on, and that seems to be a problem. I first started getting involved with city issues about the same time that this was kicking off, and I came to a couple city meetings and in a planning commission meeting. Some of you were here for that. A whole bunch of residents around the stack development were not happy about this happening, and the planning commission said, sorry, you're a meeting too late. We already had one of the meetings previously. I think you referenced that in March, and then this meeting was later in the year, and so there's nothing you can really do about it. Goodbye. And that really solidified to me that once decisions are made, they're really hard to go back on. And so when you don't have all the information in front of you, you haven't had the working meetings, you haven't had all these discussions, it's not really well planned, then maybe we shouldn't be moving forward in this situation. And we've seen that in the past as well. The village overlay was something that got me activated with the city. And if you remember that property off of Pioneer Crossing, it was passed, and a developer came forward and said, hey, we're ready to go. Let's do this. I went to the city and I talked with Brittany. I said, Brittany, tell me, show me what's going on. Show me all the documentation about how this is supposed to pan out, because they're having a meeting tomorrow. I need to know what are the requirements. Do you remember what you said? There were no documents to be provided. It was a black hole. They approved a village overlay, and then there was nothing behind it. There was no definitions. There were no rules, no restrictions, all those types of things. And so when we look at that and go, that's not appropriate, and then we hear, oh, the Strata Networks property and all the things that happened on that was so well done. In fact, the city council member says that's the best planned project we've ever had. And we know that there's been other problems with that just recently, and they just finally made a payment after 3.5 years of beating our drum. So we see that the planning has been missing over and over and over. We see that on the west side of Lehi, we don't have commercial properties because we've given it to high-density housing, and now all of our tax revenue from Lehi residents on the west side go into Saratoga Springs. This is all to say that we've lacked the planning and preparation going forward, and I don't see that we've had tons of planning and preparation here. I don't think that you've had all the education and all the legalese, and people are concerned about giving descriptions about it and saying talk to legal about it. That tells me that there's probably more here that needs to be done. And for that, this is a simple thing. Let's table this, let it go into the new year, because we just had a vote. And what our residents said in Lehi was, we're not playing insider baseball anymore. We want honest transparency. The voters overwhelmingly said, we don't like what's been happening in Lehi lately. We want change. It's time to respect the voters. It's time to respect the residents. Let the process play out. This may be the best plan the city's ever had, but I don't believe it. And I don't think a lot of residents believe it either. So let's simply push it to the new year. Let's not do 11th hour legislation. Let's not do 11th hour, cram it in there, try to get it passed before a new administration starts. We saw that just a couple days ago. We saw it last week, $32 million bond that you and I are now responsible for that's going to go to Thanksgiving Point. This last minute legislation is dirty. It's shady. And if the applicants really think this is the best plan forward, what's 3 weeks between friends? It's been since 2018. Let's discuss it in the new year with the new administration that isn't involved, because the residents said, we saw the 60 years of experience that the city council members and the mayor brought, and they rejected that experience and said, we want somebody with no experience. We don't want what's been happening. So I ask you to please table this. It's not saying reject it. Just say, hey, let's take a minute. Let's review this. This is a lot of legal language, and then we can move forward then. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
is Jean Rivera. My husband and I moved to Lehi in 2018. We moved from Provo because it had gotten so overdeveloped that it was just a nightmare to live there. And we saw Lehi as, I mean, it's just perfect. We love it here. And we started to get involved because we see the same thing happening here. And this past election, I spent a lot of time vetting all of the candidates, ones that were up for re-election, ones that were new to the political game, and I expressed my concerns about this to each one of them. And the ones that are elected have my full confidence, and I just ask that with a project this huge, that they please be allowed time to fully delve into all these issues. And I fully trust them, so I know that once they've given it consideration, I can trust them to make the best decisions for Lehi. I also have to echo the concern about the property taxes. I recently ran for school board because I was one of the residents who was upset about the property tax being raised over and over again. So as you know, we're creating these 3 new school districts and splitting this budget. So we're already going to be, everything's going to be tight. And with putting more children in there and not getting and taking that property tax away, I worry that property taxes will continue to have to be raised by the new school board. So I have just major concerns. I really wish that we could just give it some more time. I think with a project this huge that's looking to affect Lehi City residents for a couple of decades, that while I appreciate all the time that these people have put into this, I just please urge you to give us some more time. This is our city. We want to make sure that we do the absolute best for it. Please, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Cody Black. So I'm here to request a negative recommendation for this. The slides, there's 5 slides. I still don't really know what's going on with their project. I think the city attorney should go over this with all of us and with you. It sounded like all the legal stuff was confusing anyways, so I don't know how much you all even understand what's going on with it either. But, some of the points that I've seen is it's a huge liability to the city. We have to provide the utilities and probably roads and the taxes that we're going to lose to do that. So I don't think it's a good deal for us, especially a 10, 15-minute presentation. I mean, I've been here and the city attorney's gone over the Peck Park agreement for an hour so that we all understood what was happening. And I just don't think this is a long enough presentation for us to understand what's going on.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello. My name's Bradley Anderson. I've been a resident of Lehi for 38 years. There was a little space between the home we live in now on 1200 East, but we have a little bit of property. We moved down here to get out of Salt Lake City, and the city caught right back up with us. So I understand some of the sentiment that people have about Lehi, keeping it quality growth, smart growth. And I think in the last decade or so, we haven't had a lot of smart growth. It's been explosive growth. And we're not paying attention to some of the things that are going on around us. We've allowed this growth to overcome our infrastructure. We're tearing out interchanges. We're tearing out roads to make them bigger after the fact. But the one thing I want to talk about today is something that's very important to me, and that's water. Water sustains civilizations, and we live in the second or third driest, most arid state in the U.S., and we need to remember that. We see the Great Salt Lake drying up. We see the condition of Utah Lake. Everybody's taking from the Provo River. Salt Lake County's been taking water to the Jordan Valley Conservancy District for decades. And then, of course, the Central Utah Water Conservancy District. They are one of our bigger customers now. 8 years ago, 2018, 6.5% of our municipal water needs we had to go outside to the Central Utah Water Conservancy District. Today, it's 40%. We're buying more Central Utah Water Conservancy District water. And this all has to do not with slowing the flow, but it has to do with not slowing the growth. And we need to be more prudent and smart about this because we've exceeded our maximum capacity here. I've been down to the U.S. Geological Survey, and there's 8 USGS water monitoring wells right here in the Lehi community. One of them has been here since 1935. Does any of you know that Utah Lake actually dried up in the 1930s? Yeah, I've got a couple of really nice photos. Governor Henry S. Blood in a Model A 1-ton dually with all the city officials in northern Utah County inspecting the dryness, the cracked lake bottom. It's unbelievable. And what they say about that was it was lack of planning and lack of vision. And do we need to reassess these bigger projects and not green lighting them so easily? Do we need to examine our water situation, our water sources? Because I have the graphs from the USGS on all these 8 wells, and they have been in a steady, continual decline for the last 40 years, since the 1980s. And we're going to bottom out. We are tapped out with our underground water sources. And I can tell you this because Texas Instruments has now, on the former Micron property, they have 2 1,000-foot private wells that go into this public aquifer. And they're limited annually as to how much water they can pull. And then Mayor Johnson has created a service agreement with the Central Utah Water Conservancy District and Texas Instruments to purchase excess water above and beyond. And I've talked to the water manager of Lehi, and he's expressed the concern as well, because we're becoming more over-reliant on outside water sources rather than our own water sources. And he told me that our primary municipal drinking water source is coming from the Vineyard wells. These are the old Geneva steel mill wells. And Central Utah Water Conservancy District has assured the public that these are safe wells because they've drilled them down 1,500 feet below these contamination zones of this old 60-year-old operation from World War II, the steel mill plant, and all the hazardous materials and contamination below. So take that in mind, that we are receiving American Fork, Saratoga Springs, and all these communities are receiving some of our municipal drinking waters now from the Geneva Vineyard wells. And I think we've reached maximum capacity. We go into a restaurant, we see maximum seating, right? I drive an Alpine school bus, 84 passengers, maximum seating. Get onto an elevator, same thing. I think Lehi is becoming open spaces filled with rooftops. And we need to consider the high density problem and also being smarter about our growth in the next coming decade or so, about not so easily green-lighting some of these bigger projects. And we all know that the old Micron area plan became, from 2012, became the Sky Development Plan in 2021. And now it's been green-lighted in spring of 2025. It's taken 13 years for this project to go underway. Why? Water was always the problem. There was no water. And now I've got a 1,000-foot well bought and paid for by D.R. Horton, 200 feet south of my house in Cedar Hollow. And there's one at Family Park that have been drilled 1,000 feet down, a fifth of a mile down, 20 inches in diameter. And the groundwater tested at 2023 was 188 feet below land surface in those areas, in the Cedar Hollow well. So I've done a lot of checking on this. I've had a natural pond in our neighborhood that dried up all of a sudden after 75 plus years. It's dried up. It dried up, and it was all about the water table. It wasn't about any hypothetical about the Cedar or about the Murdoch Canal leaking, because that had been capped and sealed 13 years before. So we need to consider and check into, I think we need to look at our water situation and talk to the experts about our situation and where do we want to be with the water, because we have to have the water. And I don't want to see Lehi dry up any more than it is now. And it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable when we're purchasing more of our outside water from outside Lehi. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you.
Just 1 second, ma'am. Craig, just legal check on, can I allow Ms. Rivera?
Rivera. I'm
Rivera.
reading a comment for another resident, if that's okay.
It's at your discretion as the chair.
Sure. Reading for someone else. Is this the email that was sent to us? Okay.
Oh, her name is Laura Stevens.
Okay.
Okay. She says, I have some concerns with the Thanksgiving Station Developers Agreement coming before Commission today. There are components which are confusing and difficult for many of us residents to fully understand, particularly those involving the long-term financial commitments found in Article 3 of the agreement, the transfer of taxing authority given by creating a PDI found in Article 4 of the agreement, and specific obligations which are placed on the city listed in Article 6 of the agreement. Since this agreement will directly impact taxes, infrastructure, schools, and future city budgets, it would be extremely helpful for the public to have a clearer picture of this agreement with additional input from each of the department heads, some type of legal review or comments, and put more time for public input. This process seems to be rushed, although I understand that much of this has been discussed between city staff and developer for months, and now the public needs to be allowed some time to see and understand how it may affect them. Thank you for listening and for your consideration.
Thank you.
Hi, Planning Commission. My name is James Harrison, and I just wanted to express a couple concerns. Most of them have been covered already, and I appreciate Brent's earlier comments and questions, same ones that I shared as well, so thank you for asking those. I'm concerned about the tax implications, specifically the taxing authority that the city would be surrendering to a private entity, and how much we could control that over time, and what is the time limit, what are the boundaries of that. I'm not sure I understand that or can see that in the agreement. I'm also somewhat concerned that the city is asking Stack Development to promote Clubhouse Drive. I think we're in a chicken and the egg cycle right now where we don't have a high demand, especially with 2100 being finished in a couple years. I don't think there's the demand for a Clubhouse Drive extension. So if we build 2,000 units, then there will be a demand, and it's a very unpopular road. I've also met with hundreds of residents in the area, and I have a very, very hard time finding anybody that would want Clubhouse Drive, especially with 2100 being completed. So I'm concerned that the city is asking STAC to promote that. I'm glad Mr. Anderson brought up water. I would like to see a little more, as a resident, more analysis on the impact of these developments on our water supply. I've also spoken with the water department, and that's the number one cause of water use is more development. And then I'm also, I live in Jordan Willows, near Tyson, and my daughter I was informed, which then I informed my daughter, who goes to River Rock, that she's likely going to be moving to Snow Springs Elementary. And it's due to North Point being overwhelmed with students. North Point is absorbing most of the new development. Have we spoken with the school district? Is there a plan? Is there an analysis of, even if there were 0.5 students per unit of 2,000 units, that's still 1,000 children, which is an entirely new elementary school. And it's not going to be out by Cold Springs, right? It's going to be up by Thanksgiving Point. So what impact does that have on the nearby schools? I would like to understand the impact a little more on that. So I just wanted to share those thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Brittany, would you like to share the online comment, please?
Yeah, and I don't know if you all saw the one that Bo sent over as well. Do you want to review that one as well? This first one is from Earl Laurel Stevens. Said, "Dear Commissioners, I appreciate your time and effort dedicated to reviewing complex applications on behalf of Lehi residents. I'm writing concerning the proposed Thanksgiving Station developer agreement coming before you December 4th, 2025. It raises several significant questions that I believe need additional clarification, which would help the Public Planning Commission and legislative bodies feel more confident in whatever recommendation is ultimately made. As it stands, many key components are difficult for residents to fully understand, particularly those involving the long-term financial commitments found in Article 3 of the agreement, the transfer of taxing authority by creating a PID found in Article 4 of the agreement, and specific obligations placed on the city listed in Article 6 of the agreement. This agreement also seems to give Thanksgiving Station autonomy from the city, taking oversight and policing responsibility from the city and giving it to the PID, especially when taxing is concerned. Since this agreement will directly impact taxes, infrastructure, schools, and future city budgets, it would be extremely helpful for the public to have a clearer picture of how each part functions. Some areas that I feel require further explanation and consideration include: 1. Tax incentives and financial structures. The amount, duration, and expiration of the tax incentives involved are vague and open-ended. How the RDA and HDRZ function together, especially the provision allowing up to 80% of property tax to be redirected for up to 50 years with no stated maximum dollar amount, and the requirement that the city pledges its sales and use tax to help secure bonds, creating debt for the city for the benefit of a private developer. Article 6 of the agreement, more specifically point 6.3a and b. Whether the creation of a public infrastructure district, PID, effectively allows a developer-controlled district to raise and retain its own taxes, Utah Code 17D4203. How will this affect the residents of the development and the city? Does the PID designation bind future councils violating Utah Code 10205082A? How the development and its related structures will impact existing Lehi residents, schools, and other taxing entities. What effect will it have on the funding of the needed schools and other infrastructure requirements in the area, especially considering the long agreement term being listed as 50 years? City obligations, water, sewer, roads. Section 6.1 and 6.2 of the agreement reference the city being obligated to provide water, sewer, and direct road access within the developer's timeline. It would be helpful to understand what the financial and legal implications are for the city. More specifically, does this violate Utah Code 10205082A, I, A through B? Whether this will affect the city's ability to manage its own infrastructure priorities with its obligations to respond to infrastructure requests by the developer, given the city's limited budget. Why language is included restricting negative comments about the construction of Clubhouse Drive, 6.2 of the agreement, and in the DRC comment by Marlin requesting teeth for disparaging remarks about Clubhouse Drive, and is this a violation of the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution? Interdepartmental review. Several of the recent developer agreements have contained repeated no comments from crucial departments. Given the magnitude of this project, I would request that each department be required to provide actual feedback, even if it's simply no significant impact or a similar statement. I believe that this would help give the public greater confidence that all impacts have been evaluated and provide greater transparency. One example is that this development will have up to 2,000 housing units, yet there is no comment by the Transportation Department. With 2,000 housing units, there will obviously be some impact if it's foot traffic impeding or slowing vehicular traffic at road crossing to the train or bus stations. Legal review. Since this agreement includes the creation of taxing entities, public funding mechanisms, and multi-decade obligations, it also seems appropriate that legal counsel provide for public review, written comments, and or clarification for both the Planning Commission, legislative bodies, and residents to better understand the legal implications and constitutionality of the agreement. Community impact and public input. Residents affected most by the project, those living along Clubhouse Drive near the future RDA/HTRZ zone, and those concerned about traffic have not had sufficient time or clarity to understand what this means for their neighborhoods. Given the constitutional questions around delegating taxing authority to a developer-controlled district, the community would benefit from clearer guidance before any long-term commitments are made. At this stage, I feel like there are more questions than answers, and I believe that taking time to thoroughly review these matters would build greater trust and help ensure that the Planning Commission, legislative bodies, and the public have complete and solid understanding of all that is being considered. Thank you for your attention to these concerns. I know these issues are complex, and I appreciate your commitment to making decisions that reflect due diligence, transparency, and the best interests of Lehi residents. And then the other one, is from Steve Stringham. So I was hoping to come to the Planning Commission meeting tonight, but with the holidays, I will be missing it. I had a few questions about an agenda item. I was hoping for more details before a decision was made. There is a lot to unpack with the PID and taxation implications. Sorry for the long list of questions, but here it goes. With the developer capturing the taxes, how will that affect the city budget, school, county, and other taxing entities? If the developer falls short on delivering their side of the agreement, what happens to the diverted tax revenue? If the city commits to no new taxes for this project, can that be reversed without illegal issues if the developer falls short? With the increased demands on Lehi infrastructure for the 1,300 plus housing units, how will this be offset by the city? Will there be additional tax dollars needed for roads, water, sewer, etc.? Are there any guarantees that the developer will provide improvements, or is it just intent in the agreement? What is binding them financially to uphold their end? What guarantees does the city have that the developer will fulfill their side of the agreement and not have it drag out for years with partially built infrastructure projects? Do we have a full and clear fiscal impact report on this proposed project? Does the developer have guarantees or bonds to cover any public service burdens if projects fail? And we had a lot of questions. I am just concerned that several similar projects in Salt Lake City and Ogden have done similar things, and within a few years of the develop filed bankruptcy and the cities were left holding the bag. I would love to see more discussion before making any recommendations on the plans. That's it.
Very good. Anyone else from the public? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public commentary. I imagine applicants, you've heard, I'm happy to go through a number of these things. I imagine you were taking a bit of note yourself. Let's go ahead and tackle some of this.
Yeah, first and foremost, I would just like to apologize for any brevity of the presentation and just remind everyone that that's a fact of 16 Planning Commission and City Council meetings that we've had before. So by no means am I trying to gloss over anything there. The first thing I think that's maybe worth addressing is that this project is approved. The development rights are vested for the 2,000 units. The HTRZ has been approved as well. It ran through the proper channels, was approved by City Council, GO-YO. So all of those are in place here. The beauty and the design and the intent of the HTRZ is just that while yes, the the project captures a portion of the tax increment, meaning the property taxes it generates. It also incentivizes a level of density that is above and beyond what would typically be built in a development. So that the whole design of the HTRZ is that, yes, while you do capture that portion of the property taxes, because of the increased density there, it net is positive to what market-driven development would do. And so by capturing that property taxes, it allows you to then pull that money forward, bond against it, build a denser project in the right locations like a transit station, and everyone comes out ahead for the taxing authorities. And after that 25-year tranche window is over, then all the cream goes to the taxing entities there. In a way, it can be thought of as an investment where typically you don't lose anything through that 25-year window, and then it's very, very beneficial thereafter.
Why does it talk about 50 years?
Because an HTRZ around a front runner station has a 45-year window, but the tranches, call those the phases, are 25-year tranches. But, so say you had 3 tranches, right? Those all have to finish in 45 years. So it made sense with a 5-year start to the agreement and a 45-year HTRZ to give it a 50-year window. So that's the reason for that there. And I'm happy to talk more about the safeguards of the bonds, but the intent of the HTRZ as well, it's nice to get a property tax discount. That doesn't help a project come out of the ground unless you can pull that forward and put that capital into parking structures, horizontal improvements. And on the note of infrastructure and roadways, all of those things are taken on by the project. All of our roadways throughout this project are private roads, meaning we plow them, we maintain them, we do all of that.
So, can I just reiterate one thing? So one thing I think that's pretty important.
Sir,
oh, sorry.
Just remember, this is
sure.
These Roberts rules. That's how we
good
fist
point.
fights from
But
happening.
one thing for everybody, and just for everybody to know, is that we pay our taxes. The project pays its taxes, and we only get rebated from what we pay. We are not taking taxes from other parts of the city. It's just this project area. I think there's a misnomer that we're taking funds from the public school district or things like, no. It is just this project area. So how many acres are we?
26.
On this 26 acres, that's it. I just wanted to clarify that.
That's a great point. Great point.
So I have questions because I'm dumb. Okay, so I need you to talk to me like I'm dumb. You can sit down.
Okay.
I'm happy with that. Okay. 25 years. There's a tranche. There's an event. There's something that happens. For those 25 years, you were getting an 80% return from the taxes that you pay. Do I understand that correctly?
That's correct. That's the HTRZ.
You pay 100% of your taxes. 80% of that comes back to you directly. Okay. After 25 years, what happens?
It rolls off. It's now full tax rate.
It's now full tax rate.
Yep.
100% goes to the county then pays the city.
Yep.
That's what happens.
School district, et cetera.
School district, then it goes to all those little line items.
Yeah.
But the overall entity has a 50-year window.
The development agreement has a 50-year window. The HTRZ has a 45-year window, and that's just because it takes time to build projects.
Okay, so now we're talking 50, 45, and 25.
Yep.
Talk clearly.
Yeah,
I'm dumb, guys.
No, let
I'm
me
dumb.
just, so for example, the first project we'll do will be like 300 units of apartments, for example. That is one project, one tranche. That 300-unit project will have a 25 years that we can collect taxes on that one. After that, it's done. Then, fast forward 3 more years. We start another 300-unit project. That project will have a new start date, but it also has 25 years. After the 25 years, it's done. So it's like this one starts, it has 25 years. This one starts, it has 25 years. We can only start those within a 50-year window. That's it. And if after that, it's over.
Hypothetically, just to clarify, if you started a project in year 40, even though you have a 25-year tranche, it's been going for 40 years, you only get 5 years.
You won't get all your taxes, basically.
And 5 or 10?
5, because the HTRZ is 45 years. The development agreement is 50 years. I get it.
Sorry. I hopefully.
It's fine. I just. Because I don't think they understood it.
No.
I don't understand it.
I will fully
right?
admit tax increment financing is not, there's a lot to it.
Sure. The 80% What's happening? Let's talk about that.
What about the 80%?
Well, just it goes
Yes.
not the
let me-
city. So let's talk it through.
Let me flip to a slide here real quick. And because this was part of our HTRZ presentation that was approved then by Goyo here. This one right there. So the purpose of the HTRZ is to promote and create a pathway to smart development by densifying around key transit stations. We said that, right?
Yep.
In order to apply for an HTRZ, which is vetted by Goyo, vetted by Zion's Public Finance, everyone, third parties coming in and reviewing your numbers and making sure what you're putting in front of them is real, which is what the bar that we passed. The gap to build this project is $237 million between what typical market-driven development is versus what's needed to densify and build this project right. If you don't build around key transit stations right the first time, they're impaired for 30, 40 years before they can be redeveloped. That's the tool there. So that strictly is earmarked in this project to go to infrastructure and parking structures.
That's
So
the answer.
I'm just going to put into plainer English, if I may, if that's not condescending of me to suggest. But in other words, the 237 figure that's been vetted by third parties is what they've assessed the market on its own is not going to bring to the table that would be required up front in order for this to have the infrastructure that we all want out the gate, as opposed to having it kicked down the road, dealing with more of the traffic issues that plague. And so we're front loading with that 237.
That's well said, and that's the gap. What the HTRZ covers pales in comparison to that. Just want to make that very clear. It's well into the 9 figures short to cover that gap.
One more minor clarification.
Yep.
We are paying for the utilities. We are paying for the water. We are paying for the sewer. We are paying for the parking structures. We are paying for the Lehi Electric. We are paying for everything. We are going to use the HTRZ to help us reimburse for part of that. But it is not an expectation. The city is not writing a check day one for this.
You're paying for for it to go in, but the city is still on the hook for the maintenance of everything.
Sure,
Where
yeah, but
the roads,
yeah.
everything.
But I think there was a comment that the city was going to be required to pay and front load stuff. And no, we are the ones with our project. We will, like every development that goes on, we will be installing everything. But correct, there's a water main break. If something needs to be cleaned out, correct.
Which is where taxes are important, right? That's why we collect taxes.
But I think we're just talking about the property taxes of those developments, correct?
Yeah, the 30 acres.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not sales tax from nearby. I mean, that's the whole idea is we bring in residents that will spend their money other places. The revenue is sales tax that we recoup as a city to encourage that. That's a trade-off.
Yeah.
My understanding.
Right.
Yep.
And TIFs are done all over the place. I can't say they're always successful, but they certainly are tools that are used.
Oh, and they bring up good points. There have been some that have been stalled. I mean, hopefully, we've been working here for 20 years. We've done Adobe. We've done a lot of large projects. We feel like we're confidently can finish this one.
Let's talk worst case scenarios. I want to make sure the public has a chance to
Sure,
hear that.
yeah.
So
Dive through some
you guys just fall apart.
Okay, perfect.
Basics. What happens?
Nothing happens. The city is at zero risk if that happens. Let me kind of walk through some safeguards in these bonds. So I heard a lot of comments about transfer of taxing authority. A PID, certainly that's common. That's how PIDs work right there. But let's walk through these bonds, and let me tell you why that transfer of taxing authority is actually to the benefit of Lehi and its massive downside protection in this. So first, in order to get a bond, we have to bring a project, right? And before we can even apply for a bond, we have to have debt and equity lined up. That means banks underwrite this, say that's a viable project, we'll lend on this. Investors say that's a viable project, we'll invest millions of dollars into this. In order to get that bank financing, I'm sorry if this is 101, but just wanted to walk through all the steps.
I want you to talk 101.
Perfect. In order to get that bank financing, the developers will have to sign a personal guarantee, putting our net worth, our house, our vehicles, everything we own on the line, guaranteeing that we will build this project, we will make full repayment of the loan, and we will complete the project. It's a financial guarantee and it's a completion guarantee. So those two things happen, investors, bank debt lined up. Then we go to the city goes to a third-party investment bank. An investment bank then looks at the project and says, okay, this project and the property tax increment it'll spit off can support $2 million in bonds, $3 million in bonds like that. They underwrite the project themselves. Those investment banks take it out to the market. The investors that buy these bonds are the major institutional corporations of America. So they're smart money buying these bonds. So you've had banks, investors, investment bank, capital allocator, investors buying these bonds there. So it has been vetted 4 to 5 times just to get to that process. So now it goes out for the actual bonding process. In these bonds, they are structured so that there are interest reserves, there are working capital reserves, and there are construction interest reserves. All that means is 25% of the bond, give or take, is set aside for a rainy day that if for some reason the property taxes didn't cover this bond, again, highly unlikely, it's been underwritten many times, that 25% of the proceeds can then be paid back to the bond to pay that down, okay? Beyond that, Marlon and his team here, Jason, negotiated an additional debt service reserve of 10%. So an additional 10% of those bonds are set aside. We're now at about, give or take, 35% of those bonds set aside for an emergency fund, rainy day fund. So now we get to the PID. And one full, just belt and suspenders addition to this that is highly uncommon but was added here is we were actually instructed by the city to do the PID. We were asked that, hey, if you want to set up these bonds and do this HTRZ, we need to set up a PID because we want to establish a mill levy if we need to, where in that event that property taxes came in lower than the bonds, and again, that's not going to happen because the bonds are sized conservatively, but we can come in and we can add 15 mills to your project. I think the mill rate in Lehi is 8.4 or something like that. Call it, 0.8%. They can add another 150, 15 mills, however you want to look at it, to this property. I'm sorry if this is getting complicated. It's just kind of hard to go
we're
into
going to
explaining
drill
this.
down to the floor.
Yeah.
Carry on.
So Lehi City can then lever up our property taxes, call it essentially 200%, to make sure that any shortfall is now covered by those property taxes. So we're now at the 6th layer of protection, okay? Say for some reason, none of that worked right there in the year that there's a shortage on paying these bond payments, okay? That is when the Lehi City sales tax pledge would step in and cover the deficit. So we're now at the 7th layer where Lehi City actually comes in and they're taxed all the subordinate sales and use tax, subordinate to all city obligations, current and future, subordinate to all of those, steps in, pays that debt service. The year after that, that PID mill levy, the tax rate increase, is triggered. We pay back the city every dollar that came out of the sales tax fund, and then we replenish that debt service reserve that was used to pay these bonds here. So as you can see, there are numerous safeguards, and at the end of the day, Lehi City has a 100% repayment guarantee from the developer, from the project. And the only way that ever goes bad is if we do not pay our property taxes. And what happens if you don't pay your property taxes? You lose your property. And if that happens, we go back to number 1, you trigger your personal guarantee. So not only is the project in jeopardy, personally, us as developers are now in jeopardy with our homes, our vehicles, everything we own. So those are the belt and suspenders approach to make sure that Lehi City sees significant upside by unlocking this, critical TOD and massive economic asset here, but also has immense downside protection where they're made whole in any event. So if that's helpful context, that is why transferring that taxing authority to the PID and Lehi City essentially is actually a very good thing for Lehi City itself. So I hope that addresses that. If there's follow-up questions, I can touch on that, or I can go into some of the other questions that we heard there.
I know the PIDs are fairly common, and I can't say I know legislation off the top of my head to the point, but you have any swing at constitutionality?
If you gave me some time, I could cite it. But one thing I wanted to say earlier that I didn't quite get to is I understand there's many questions on this from residents, and I am more than happy to hang around and do my best to explain every single one of these. I have a 6-week-old daughter at home, so I'm sure my wife would be a little upset with that, but I will stay here as long as I need to. I also work right here in Lehi City. I'm available tomorrow. If any of these residents want to come to our office, more than happy to explain this further.
I'll say I do know that it is ruled as constitutional per the Supreme Court, but I don't know legislation off the top of my head. That
I do know it's legal, obviously, because there are numerous examples.
I'm just hitting everything.
Yeah. That's fantastic. A couple I'd point to is just Station Park, Daybreak, Bingham Junction, Midvale. All of these are exact examples of this being used.
Worst case scenario again, you fail to pay your property taxes.
Mhm.
You get your property repossessed.
Yeah.
The owners are then the banks, right? They're not the city. City's getting nothing.
And what's a bank going to do? They're going to pay the property taxes, right? Because why would they forego a tens of $1,000,000 mortgage on a property, their position in that, for a couple $1,000s in property taxes, say, give or take, right? It's a rounding error compared to the loan that would be on the property. You see it all the time when there's pre-tax sales of homes. The bank always steps in and satisfies the lien on property taxes because it's in their best interest too. So call that the 8th layer of protection.
Okay. Okay.
And Chairman Jackson, it's under Utah Code 17D4103 where the PIDs are allowed.
Thank you.
And what provisions and what is allowed, how they're created, and everything.
Say just one more time. I want out there for the public.
Utah Code 17D4103.
Okay.
Did you have something that somebody wanted you to tell us?
Well, should we just mention that?
Go ahead.
Well, you'll explain it better, but when we issue the bond, the people who take out the bonds are also clearly taking risk. So they're the ones that are actually the ones taking the risk. So
and just to be clear, these are project by project bonds. They're not secured across the whole property. That's another insulation layer, that it's one vertical project. It's not a project 15 years down the road. And we're not talking bonds the size of $30 million here. We're talking bonds in the $3 to maybe $5 million range for a project. So these are not massive by any means.
Why don't we drill down on city obligations?
Okay.
I'm going to let you go ahead. Just start firing
Obligations?
here. Yep.
It's pretty much all outlined in our area plan. Just give us our standard due process to submit site plan applications, go forward. Is that kind of what you're talking about? The only things I think we're trying to protect is just predictability in our project, which I think is understandable when you're talking a long-term multi-phase project.
Policing, other functions that are typically done by the city.
Yeah.
Speak to that.
Yeah, those. This is in Lehi City's boundaries there. So police, fire, all of that stuff. That's what our property taxes, sales tax from the residents. Spending money in the city, franchise tax on utilities. All of those things go to pay for that stuff there. And roadways, like I said, we have private roadways. We plow them, we maintain them. That is extremely unusual, I would say, for most development within Lehi City. And that's a burden we took on to make sure that this is walkable and something that we can control the maintenance on. Well, the city does a fantastic job at that stuff. We want to hold it to a certain standard there, so we took that on.
Let's see.
A large chunk of my property taxes go towards the schools.
That's right. Yeah.
How does that get reconciled? How is the school still be able to get what they need to maintain and to grow and to educate our children?
Yeah, and all of that was squared away when we got our HTRZ approval. The school district was there at all of the HTRZ meetings. If you'll remember, in our original 5,000 concept plan, we had land for a school here. As we shrunk that down, the school district was involved, and they basically said we can absorb what we predict this project will add. So going back to my original point of when you densify 5x, right, of what traditional dense development would be, and you take 80% of the property taxes, that 20% is what typical market-driven development would still provide. So at that sense, you're getting that. And frankly, it's more because there's sales tax, franchise tax, like I said, because you're getting more economic activity from it.
Questions about other examples of these that have been implemented, right? There already have been
HTRZ?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've already talked about some of them being successful, some of them not. Are the numbers that we're talking about here unique? Or is every HTRZ different? Or is every one of them 80, 20% split, 50-year long? I mean, what are we talking about here?
The legislation has changed year to year minorly, and the main difference is just if it's a BRT station, a track station, or a front runner station. Front runner station being the heavy rail people mover, those do have a longer window, but I do want to say they're all 80%. As
You
far
want
as I know.
to, or you do? So?
I'm quite certain they're all 80%. The ones
But what
that-
do they bottom out at? Do they bottom out at 50%? Like, let's talk about that.
No, they're.
You said they max at 80. What's the bottom?
So historically, for example, if you look on that list, I did Bingham Junction right there in Midvale. It was a 75% at the time.
But that was before HTRZ.
That was before HTRZ. HTRZ was brought on to kind of supercharge the smart growth in next to tracks front runner stations. Just to give you a small example, that Midvale one, it was a Superfund site. If you guys know where the Top Golf is, 100, 200 acres right there. The tax value at that time was $4 million. Okay, fast forward 9 years now. After we've done that, you go out there, there's Overstock, there's CHG, all these companies have gone there. It's $700 million. That's the new tax value. So that is what we're trying to accomplish is if we would have had no RDA there, we wouldn't have been able to do the things we needed to do. But because Midvale City, and you guys have done this in other spots, did an RDA, and this time the term's HGRZ, we were able to supercharge and finish that site. That's the concept.
But I'd still like to know the figures from some of these other HTRZs, right? You're saying a max of 80, and I appreciate that. A max of 80. I like that there's a ceiling, right?
Yeah.
That's something I can understand.
Yeah.
Remember, I'm dumb. Okay.
That is not true.
I am.
No.
But like our other cities, other HTRZs, are they coming up with 60-40 splits?
No.
70-30?
HTRZ is a state code. It is set by, it was a state regulation.
A couple examples, Vineyard, Daybreak, the Smith Entertainment Group Downtown Project, South Salt Lake has established one as well. I know I'm missing several here. South Jordan Front Runner Station. I would say there are probably 10 of
Cairns
these.
District just did one.
There are probably 10 of these at least, and more being added every few months. Just have to meet the requirements of being within a certain amount of distance to the transit station.
So the state defines what is allowable for this.
And then GOYO determines it. The city is the applicant. So Lehi City was the applicant for this HTRZ. They set up this place. If there's other developers in this land area, they get the exact same benefits. It's a city application, not a developer application.
Okay.
No, you have nothing to apologize for. Let's see, tax applications, houses, bonds, the time limit. Clubhouse Drive was brought up, which we touched on. It is. We'll let you gentlemen catch your breath for a second. Kim, Clubhouse Drive. Can we drill down?
Clubhouse Drive is needed for the ultimate build-out of the Thanksgiving Point area plan. It's identified in the plan, but it's one of the very last needed roadways per the transportation study that was done. So as a city, we want to make sure that stays on everybody's radar. That's why it's in the agreement. We want to make sure that they, if it needs to be built for Thanksgiving Point traffic to be successful long-term, we feel like they should be, equally participating, I guess, or at least supportive. And so there's some language in there that says that they won't withhold support. Anyways, I don't know.
Yeah.
You guys could probably speak more.
I would say a lot of that was great. The one thing I would disagree with is this is our approved traffic triggers table in here. and you'll see where it says, you know, Lehi City projects, which credit to Lehi, you've pretty much done all of these already. Project roadway improvements, meaning the developer needs to do it. UDOT projects. And what you'll see down here in the bottom section is Thanksgiving Point completed. These are beyond 2031 projects that are not the developer-led projects. These are Lehi City, MAG, UDOT, and Clubhouse Drive is in that one down there. So it's kind of a long, if I'm speaking correctly, it's a long-range plan. Beyond the project, those are roads that at the time were projected to need to be finished, but they are not within our traffic triggers there. 2100 North is the one that landed in our traffic trigger, and again, that's UDOT Road. Is that how you remember that, Kim?
Yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but it is noted that at some point, you know, even though it's way out there in the future, the transportation study did note that in order for Thanksgiving Point, and you know, beyond what your project might build, it's still needed. I don't know.
With
Gary,
the expectation that background growth is going to continue to happen in Saratoga.
Yeah, it's just for that area, the traffic study, when it was done, they felt like that should still be part of the overall full build out. You know, when Thanksgiving Point is 100% completed, that roadway is still necessary. That's why it's mentioned in the agreement.
I think this has been said, but the freeway to freeway, 2100, whatever the right term is for that, that is the one that is going to make the biggest difference, though, in our opinion, in my opinion. That's the one. I'm not arguing Clubhouse. I'm not trying to say one way or the other. I'm just saying that's the one that's really going to make the difference.
Well, don't argue it, because apparently we want to have teeth to go against you. If you do, which I think is weird.
I have come to learn,
So just be careful what you say.
What other questions?
I'm going to start crossing out. Notes are by commenters. Yes, it is. It has. It's run out. The pen just died.
Oh, the pen ran out?
Yep.
Here you go, sir.
Thank you. It's all right. It'll work. Time limit. I feel like we talked about that sufficiently. Tax implications. We talked tax. School district, I know we already talked about that a little bit. Let's go ahead and drill down more on that. That's probably going to be my phrase of the evening, is drill down. School district, I mean, this is a past, but I think it's worth noting that all these different branches of government don't always, they don't trigger one another per se. They do work independently. But so while the school district has its own board and makes its own decisions, and we are in the midst of a split, nonetheless, you mentioned discussions previously with them about them being able to absorb students, absorb kids with a 5 times greater density. Where does that math come from to be able to absorb without building another school?
That was just at the time that we were preparing for this project here with the concept plan, working through the area plan, and then the HTRZ as well. All of those, the school district was involved in all of this and aware of everything that's going on. I'm not trying to portray that we have some partnership with the school district.
I
by
know,
any means,
and I want to note that. I know how very separate these things are.
Yeah, exactly. And there's certainly been changes in the district and all of that.
Yeah, I think what you were also, just to reiterate, is when we went in front of GOYO, which is the approving body of the HTRZ, because it's already approved, the school district was in the room, though, and they voted, and they had their say, and they, that's all. Yeah.
Okay.
Does the splitting of Alpine School District change any of those metrics?
Not that we're aware of. And again, those are I mean, I guess those are things more related to the already approved concept plan, the already approved
Yeah.
HTRZ.
We're not here to,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I recognize that. There's a line of wanting to, first of all, we want to make sure we're addressing what the public wants to hear and know, right? But at the same time, yes, it's important to also be clear on the delineation of factors that can actually be taken into account in any decisions tonight versus invested rights versus foreign decisions that...
I can see if someone was coming tonight thinking, oh, this is something new. I mean, these are, like we keep saying, approved rights. The area plan's actually been recorded. There's no question as to vested rights.
Okay, bonds. Water. There's a lot of talk about water. I know you got over $5 million in water.
Love to talk about water.
Let's talk water.
There is no more efficient use of water than high-density housing. Water-wise landscaping, less square footage, like previous applications seeing, third acre, half acre lots. Compare that to density of this scale, and just how many more homes would be able to stack in the same place there without yards on all of those. So by far the most efficient water-wise development you could do, and I would stand by that confidently. And we've paid for all. We had many third parties who used to be involved with kind of the Water Commission of Utah involved in all this here. And like I said, we've bought $5.4 million worth of water that's in Lehi City wells today, and we haven't built a single unit. So I would argue that we're net positive in that regard.
But because the water use will still go up, even though it's a better use of the water, right? With that many more people
We
in
will
the area,
use
the
the
water
5.4 million
will go
that we
up.
paid for. That's correct.
I
You're
think
right.
that was part of the
no, they're right.
concern
We will
was-
definitely use water, but
that's
it's not like we're going hunting for the water. We've
You already
paid
have.
for and dedicated the shares to the city already.
And that's assuming that every resident that moves in here is net new resident into Lehi City. If they were moving from something less efficient, then it's a net positive, right? If someone moved from a quarter acre lot into a nice apartment, that would be a positive. So.
Yeah, but someone else would move into that quarter acre lot.
Possible. Fair point.
Kim, I want to throw to you. What does it mean when there's no comment on DRC?
Especially from traffic.
Yeah.
Let's talk about.
So, public asked, right, raising
Yeah.
concern that there was no comment.
Yeah.
Would you comment on no comment?
Yes, I would love to.
Great.
My best answer would be the previous slide where you saw all those DRC meetings. All of the infrastructure that's needed for this project has already been vetted, identified. It's in the area plan. So this development agreement, we're not reopening that. We're not trying to establish, well, where is the sewer going to come from, or how are these cars going to be handled? Where's the traffic going? It's in the area plan. So the DRC, when they reviewed this agreement, they were only looking at the agreement language itself. We're not reassessing the development itself. Hopefully that makes sense. So if they said no comment, it means they had no comment on this agreement. They had oodles of comments over a year plus when the area plan was going through. So that was the graph that we just had up there, the traffic study. That took, a year to go through all the, what roads are needed, what's not, how many trips are being generated. So yeah, they just didn't have any comments on the agreement language itself, because a lot of it, like the fire marshal, for example, there's nothing really in there that jumped out at him. They're not exempting themselves from the International Fire Code. They're not asking for exceptions on fire access. So he has no comment on this agreement. He's already done all of his comments with the area plan. Hopefully that answers that question.
And maybe I can give a little bit of clarity. This is kind of one of those unique development agreements that the state has created, because a few years ago the legislature changed and we changed our policy on how we do development agreements. They used to not come to the Planning Commission all the time. The state legislature said, hey, if you're going to if you're going to enter into a development agreement that touches on property or property rights, it has to go through the same process that a land use ordinance would go through. And so those you guys see, and those are kind of run of the mill. The problem is when you have an RDA or a PID or this HTRZ, it's different, and not all RDAs affect land use or any type of that, and you don't see those. Those typically go to a work session for the city council, and then they go directly to the city council. This one, I know there was some discussion as to whether it should come here first or whether it should go directly to council, because it's kind of in that gray area. And so the city wanted to make sure, actually it was them that recommended that this come here first, to make sure that it's done appropriately.
Can I say one thing about the no comments too? Because I think it's important for this one, but also like all DRC comment sheets, is this was a second review of DRC, so there were more comments the first time, and there was a lot more individuals at DRC who had comments, but then they resubmitted, and so it was cleaned up. And every time we have something come to Planning Commission, we've gone through enough reviews to where it's pretty cleaned up. So when it says no comments, it doesn't mean they never had comments, it's just the comments were addressed sufficiently.
That gets through every question I noted.
I have a question for staff.
Please. And if any of you caught something that I missed, a lot of those were
go ahead.
fired quick.
Okay. Brittany, you opened up this presentation saying we as staff are a little uncomfortable with some of the legalese as well, or have questions. I'd like to know more about that. What are you guys concerned with from a staff perspective?
Yeah, I think most of them are addressed in the DRC comments, and yeah, there's just continual conversations, I guess, and wanting to make sure that some of the language that's proposed is, you know, that we come to an understanding. There's just some concern about the language, if it's, yeah, like binding our hands or creating future problems. Because, you know, I think the hard thing is intent versus what can then be construed with legal language, right? And we want to make sure that the city's
they're
not
in
getting
sync.
bound by language.
No, and I understand it.
You want to speak to that, Craig?
Yeah, the issue and kind of the interesting thing on this one is it originated from the applicant. It's my understanding they worked with Randy Larson to have this drafted, and Marlon.
Randy Larson represented the city.
Okay, yeah. So he was representing us, working with Marlon. And for those who don't know, Randy Larson typically deals with, he's a bond counsel. He deals with these RDA and all of these tax increment financing. That's his specialty. He's an expert. He lives in Heber. I know him very well. He was at city council last week for some other bonding issues. That's kind of his expertise. So he was working with Marlon on that, and I know they are still working on it and still going through some questions with that. Our office was brought aware of it, and both Ryan and I have reviewed it. I know that Ryan has met with staff as well as city council members to discuss issues and other questions that they have. So it's not that we haven't looked at it or gone over it. Yes, there is some legalese, and we're doing our best to explain that to the council. No,
people.
Not dumb people. To go through that with the council. And I appreciate, the outreach from the city council members that have brought their questions to our office and given us an opportunity to sit down with them on that.
Approving tonight's items, are we green lighting anything that is still ambiguous in legalese?
At this point, I would say no, and it's still under review and going through it. So as we meet with the city council, with the mayor, with Jason, with Kim, I know that there are still ongoing meetings where we are working through the language, and if there is any red flags that appear, then they will be addressed.
We're also recommending.
I know.
We're not approving anything.
I realize that.
Okay.
Ken?
I have a couple questions. First one,
Love it.
when does this go before the council?
I guess that's dependent on tonight's outcome. If you choose to make a recommendation tonight, either approval or denial, it would be the next city council meeting is on December 16th. It's their last meeting of the year.
It would be on that one?
Yeah, if for
Okay.
whatever reason you table it or there's not an action tonight, then it would go into the new year to
Okay.
January.
Thank you. As far as some of the language in this, recital C, where the city finds developments such as the project to be in the public interest of its citizens and thus desires to encourage and support the project. I guess I'm uncomfortable, and there's a similar clause asking you guys to support Clubhouse Drive, which sounds like you don't support it. Do you support? There's this.
Careful. Careful.
Yeah, I'm just saying, why are these two things in there when it just makes the city, now you're legally required to support this. Like, yeah, up front we support it, but behind closed doors we don't like it. Same for you, right? Same kind of question. I'm uncomfortable with that. I don't know if you've got an answer for it.
No, and that's a great recommendation or something that you can put in a motion to the city council. Because, the beauty of being an in-house attorney for a city is, whether we like something or not, our job is to determine whether or not something is legal or not legal. With regards to, sentiment or, my position on anything, that has to, Ryan and our job is not to be political, but to tell the council, here's this contract, this agreement. It meets within the bounds of the Utah law and City of Lehi law. Now, how they want to take that and run with it is up to them. But our job is to be the gatekeepers with regards to whether it's legal or not.
Okay, thank you. And then these two questions are more geared at you guys. Will the units be owner occupied, or are you guys planning to rent them or lease them?
They're rentals as of now.
So
Possibility for other options, but the HTRZ is kind of structured. The HTRZ requires for a portion of it to be affordable housing and to be,
So that concerns me. 1,300 units, rentals. We have a housing, participating in the
Totally get it.
American dream is part of what we're trying to do.
This, not to ever shut it down or anything, but that part's already been approved with the area plan. So all
Okay.
of that's been done.
Yeah, I just
Understand what you're saying.
It annoys me because the Utah City and Vineyard, same idea. We're going to have 5,000 units they're leasing. Like, that seems, some ethical questions. And then, so in HOA, there'll be some private roads and private amenities.
There'll be CCNRs and HOAs put in place.
Okay. And then if you would, please, one more time, talk about transferring the taxing authority to the developer. Because I think that was a big one that everybody hit on. I'd love to have a little bit more discussion there.
Okay, I'll let you take over, but just to reiterate one more time, what normally happens is we pay our taxes in November, right? And first phase, like I talked about, 300 units, that will pay its taxes. Call it $400,000, whatever that number is. Then they come through, the next spring they reassess, and initially, let's just start, let me back up and just say nothing's built there right now. You go out there, the taxes are $12,000 because it's just raw ground. Well, we build the 300 unit project, we fast forward, now we get $400,000 in taxes, right? We pay that. That money that we pay goes to Utah County. The county then, in turn, turns around and pays Lehi City their portion. They pay everybody their little portion. The school district, there's like 17 items in there. In this case, and I know this isn't exactly what you're asking, but in this case, we do get a portion of that. We get 80% of that to help supercharge this site, okay? Now, in order, I'll let you take over to do the PID, but it's only, once again, I'm just trying to reiterate, it's on the projects that we're building.
Yep.
Yeah.
Think of it this way. Property taxes get paid to the county. The county then pushes that 80% back to the Lehi City RDA. The Lehi City RDA funnels that money into the PID, and the PID pays the bond payments. That was structured at advice of Gilmore Bell Bond Counsel for Lehi City, because instead of Lehi City RDA issuing the bonds, this allows the PID to issue the bonds, which again puts more onus and burden with on
Insulates.
exactly. So the whole reason of a PID costs us money, like $100,000 a year to maintain and do budgets and reviews and everything like that. So it'd be way better for us to just do it through the RDA, but the city felt strongly that it should go through the PID to further insulate the city.
Because I think the concern is, right, and the language that I used,
Yeah.
transferring the taxing authority.
Totally understand how that language, triggers red flags, but net it is a benefit for that reason, and I think council would speak to that.
Okay. All right, thank you. And then reminded me of one other thing about the school districts. So if you guys are getting 80% of that tax revenue back to help you out, but we're increasing the density, the overall population of the schools will go up. So I don't, and you did mention something about the offset, yeah, we're going to get more tax money for more students, but 80% of that tax money is going back to help pay for the project.
You're right. I think the thought is where it was $12,000 before, in my example of just raw ground, and now we're paying $400,000. Well, 20% of $400,000 is better than 80%.
Sure, but there's not one student.
Understood, yeah. And we're not here to
yet.
speak on behalf of the school district, but I'm just speaking to the math. That's all I'm referring to.
Okay,
And,
yeah,
and I can see that people are, there's going to be more students, and they're right. There will be. You know what I mean? That is
So that was
totally accurate.
that's my point.
Yeah,
right?
you were
Is
right. That is totally
like,
right.
Wait, we're increasing the population, but
Yeah, and when we went through the area plan, and I know I keep going back to this, but that is when we met with the school district. They weighed in. We went to the GOYO. I guess we're just trying to point out they were involved in the decision.
Right.
That's all I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I have a question. Just making sure there's a lull. So does this help the city's housing attainability mandate from the state?
Yeah, there is one of the required goals if you have a fixed transit station is to create like an HTRZ. So, yeah, it is one of our goals.
Okay. So, in 2018, when you first brought this, well, I wanted to point out that you've been in many meetings. You've said that, but since 2018, and all of these meetings are available on the city's website under the government tab.
Good point.
Public meetings and notices. It's also covered in the Lehi Free Press on their website. You can, I did it here. It was very quick. So you can see pictures of all the presentations. You can see what they're proposing.
How many of those were written by you?
Yeah, exactly. So I've
Back
listened.
in your old press days.
Back in the old press days. So anyway, so they're available. So this is not a new thing. This is not something that we've never seen before and haven't discussed at length. And I also looked up the population of Lehi in 2018. It was 66,000, and today we're approaching 100,000. So in 7 years, we added 34,000, roughly, people, and this is a transit station that already exists. That's what we always say when a TOD comes up. Well, if we don't have the station there, we can't build the housing, and if we don't have the housing, the station won't come. The station is there. This is where it makes sense, and where the best use of the water. Anyway, there's a lot of negative comments tonight, but I would also wonder if this, now that we've gone through all these iterations, if this isn't approved, what happens?
We can develop the project as is. We have vested rights to build the 2,000 units. That's
It's a good point, though. It would, I mean, we would have to talk, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, it would be a less dense project. It would not do all the things that the HTRZ and the state mandates were meant to do.
Going back to the $237 million gap, if there's not help for that, then kind of the incentive to build that density from a financial perspective obviously starts to dissipate.
Yeah.
I want to make the point that the density is coming, and if we can put them all right there by a transit station, then I think Lehi will be better off than spreading it out.
We agree.
And it's the supercharging of the infrastructure. So I'm a humanities guy, but the math, your example, let's say we're getting 12 grand in property taxes from the undeveloped land right now, right? You put in some development, jumps up to 400. So that 400, to finish out with the example you're giving, 80% of that goes to you, and 20% goes to the city. So the city gets 80 grand for that land as opposed to the 12 grand it got before. That's how the city ends up.
That's a good way to, yeah.
And a fun exercise I did is just looked at some of the major taxpayers within Lehi City, and multifamily housing is by far the highest property taxes per acre within the city, if you start to look at it. So Lehi Tech Apartments, about $60,000 net to the net property taxes to the city there. Costco is about 18,000 if you start to look at it. So when the HTRZ rolls off, it's a significant boom.
You're just saying down the road. Yeah. But your math is, that's what we're trying
What
to
do
say.
you know?
Yeah.
I can do some math on occasion. So, but what's that?
You're not the dumb one.
I know if I'll say that. I like your leaning into that, Tyson. I think you're plenty intelligent, but I appreciate your insistence, as it should be, with when we're speaking publicly, to make sure that we are dialing things down to the simplest terms possible, not in a condescending or rude way, but to facilitate understanding. And I'd hope that it's at least from my perspective, it's been made amply clear that, I mean, we can talk about increased revenue to the city. That's great. That's not the be-all, end-all, right? Quality of life is the be-all, end-all. Of course, the invested rights is, right, it goes forward. This is about getting the infrastructure for the heavily populated part of our city, rather than continuing. This supercharging helps us get there rather than continuing to be lagging, which is the constant frustration of any municipality trying to deal with the various other entities that get to make those decisions. When UDOT decides to grant their great blessing of roads on roads that we don't have control over. Anyhow, I think I've run my mouth off to the extent.
Brent has been quiet.
I appreciate the education on a lot of things. I've been familiar with TIF projects, especially Bingham Junction in particular, and so I appreciate the conversation we've had and the answers to the questions that you all posed. I know this is coming. This is not changing the project. That's a done deal. They have vested rights for the development through the area plan amendment that I think took place. My only concern is this should have been a work session item, in my opinion, where we could be brought up to speed on the level of this development agreement. And there's another one I think we still have to discuss, but I hope that goes much faster because it's pretty much the same. And that's what I'm thinking is, the public certainly has some questions. Hopefully most of those were answered tonight. That's the purpose of bringing it before this body, was the intention that it has a public hearing in front of the Planning Commission.
Yeah, and that it's double, right? I mean, questions are addressed, but then it will still go to City Council, and there is time for the public to further reflect and even refine their questions.
And I just wish that we'd had a bite at this apple for this particular development agreement. We've certainly been involved in the Planning Commission meetings, at least I have. Those of you that came later, not as many, but I just think it seems like we're trying to get something done tonight. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the timing of it. I'm certainly in agreement with it, but I think the public deserves more opportunity, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what to say. That's what I've been ruminating on.
Okay.
This was one of the very first projects that I ever heard on the commission. I've been on here for 8 years. And yeah, I mean, you've been here all that time, and you've been here most of that time.
Most of it, yeah.
But yeah.
And development agreements, I'm not a lawyer, right? So I have to have some trust that the city legal counsel has done their job to protect the interests of the city.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to, none of us are experts in much of this.
Everything.
And, you know, like I said, I read it twice, picked up a few things that I recommend we probably see change a little bit, that 10-year to 5-year if we're going to proceed with this. And, but I'm just concerned about the time frame of our ability to digest this and really provide positive feedback or negative feedback or any feedback, just because this is the first we've heard it and seen it was when it got posted online just the other day. So those are my thoughts.
Well, there are emotions that they can reflect that.
I don't really have the appetite to make the motion. Somebody else?
Well, I think the state's put the Planning Commission in a difficult spot, to be honest with you. Because I don't believe that tabling it is the right move. But I personally don't know that I'm prepared to give a positive or a negative recommendation. I would probably punt it as a neutral recommendation. Because this is more for city council. But then
It is.
there was points raised. We're at the end of the year. There's a change. It's not new. This has been in the works with the current, and they were elected with the trust of the public through the end of their term. We certainly have seen others elected to begin in January. So I'm not saying that there isn't trust in the current administration because they were elected and have served their terms, and their terms aren't over yet. So I'm content to push it as a neutral. So with that said, I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely.
Okay. For item 4.4, public hearing and recommendation of staff's request for review of the Thanksgiving Station Development Agreement located on approximately 26 acres in the Thanksgiving Point area, that we provide a neutral recommendation to the City Council with the findings that as a body, we feel as a Planning Commission wasn't given a lot of time to review this particular agreement. But this was held at the requirement of the state code to have it come before the Planning Commission as a public comment opportunity, which we fulfilled that function. I think with the recommendation that there are changes to the text to remove the paragraph you were concerned with and about the, I can't remember which one, you have it on your note.
Recital C.
Yeah.
And then you guys having to support it publicly, but whatever that means.
The Clubhouse Drive.
Yeah, Clubhouse
Yeah.
Drive, thank you. Yep.
That with the recommended changes that Commissioner Roberts has suggested, and with the changing of the beginning of the project duration or the start time from 10 years to 5 years, that those will be considered by City Council if they were to continue to pursue this development agreement. With the finding that a development agreement is between developers and the city council, and is not necessarily required of the planning commission to approve or disapprove. I'm struggling with the...
Apart from the
Yeah.
legality that needs to come before us, if you want to register discontent at that requirement, the disagreement, I think that would make sense.
Restate that for me, please.
Noting discontent at the state requiring planning commission to comment or weigh in on what is essentially a city council issue.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it discontent, but the requirement that we fulfilled our function by hearing it and having the public hearing. And so with the finding that element of what's required in state code has been met, does that answer your concern?
Take it from the top there.
Okay, the motion is to provide a neutral recommendation to the city council with the recommendation that there be some changes made to some of the text that we've identified that Commissioner Roberts has pointed out, that I've pointed out, and with the finding that this hearing tonight has met the requirement of state code, but the final decision is up to the city council, and so that's why we're pushing it forward that's why we're passing, no, I can't get the right words. That's why I'm recommending a neutral recommendation to the city council for their consideration with the comments and the public comments that have been part of the record now, and that will be for them to decide.
Craig is itching.
And with
to
all
say
of the, add all the DRC comments, of which I don't know that there were many, but Craig, feel free to correct me.
No, I just wanted to be clear. Our code allows for you to make a positive or a negative recommendation. Obviously, you can make your motion for a neutral recommendation. That language will go to the council, but I believe under
by law, it must be
under our code that'll be deemed as a negative recommendation.
Okay.
But you can still
make it neutral.
You can still say
So
it's
that
neutral.
N-word isn't
You can
associated
still
with my
say
motion?
whatever you want, but if it's not a positive or a negative recommendation, then the default is to the negative recommendation.
Okay, well, I was just trying to appease where I think you all are sitting. So I'll stay with the neutral recommendation.
Well, I'll tell you, by all means, go forward with it. I'll probably vote against that, but if that's of course the where the commission's at, do it.
Well, you could exercise your one more right to make the motion.
Was there a second on that?
There wasn't.
There was not.
Was there no second?
Were you
So
done?
let it die. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to second. If it doesn't get seconded, it dies.
Yep.
That's fine.
I want to hear it, but I'll second that.
Okay. All right. Well, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye. I vote on the neutral recommendation. I'm the only one.
Okay.
I'm the only one.
Nay.
And yes, those against?
Nay.
Yes, I know I seconded
Okay.
something to nay.
So
but-
that puts you in a position as a board, planning commission, just so people understand that you can, if there is desire to make a new motion, a renewed motion, or a different motion, that motion failed, you can do that. If no one brings forth another new motion, then it will go forward as a negative recommendation as well.
Don't look. I tried the
No,
first
you
time.
did.
You did.
I'm not
You did.
opposed to you. Right, I say it just goes forward. It's negative. Right? That's what you're saying? It just goes forward as a negative recommendation?
Yeah, I mean, it would be cleaner if you were to make a motion, but you're not required to. Because
Clean it
you
up,
took a
Eric.
vote
Clean
and
it
it
up.
would.
Clean it up.
I'm trying to double check our bylaws on that, but
I'm comfortable with it sitting and just going forward negative. In an unclean manner.
I mean, I would recommend
As
against,
this whole process has been.
I would recommend against that, but it's. And Kim, you can
Okay,
correct
well,
me, but that's
okay.
how
Wait,
I.
You guys are on
he's going to take a bite at it.
Well, no one's clearly comfortable, and Craig, our
Yeah,
counsel,
no, I think-
is recommending that we clean it up, so
Oh, okay.
we'll see where people stand on this one.
All right, swing
For
it
item
back.
4.4, I move that we provide a negative recommendation to the city council on this particular agreement, with the finding that, that's where we get into the problems here, right? Include all the DRC comments, with the finding that based on public comment that we've received tonight, there was overwhelming concern about the timing and opportunity for getting questions answered by the public who are affected by the decision, and that we would recommend some language changes that were in the previous motion to be considered, that would maybe help make this a better development agreement, and include the consideration of the public comments that were expressed concern about not only the timing, but questions on understanding the TIF, PID structure. And it would give the public more opportunity to have those questions answered prior to a city council action.
Can I add a finding?
Add away. You guys.
For me, I would add a finding, and this is me. I'd add a finding that knowing that this does not stop or halt the developer from being able to develop their property. If it did, I would feel very uncomfortable. But the fact that this does not halt or stop the developer from being able to move forward with an approved project already, that I would want that to be a finding as why we're okay with this being negative. It doesn't stop the development.
Well, I don't know.
And
I don't know that's a finding.
to that extent, issues that have been raised, the brass taxes, we have gone over this for years, and I do feel that I understand it, and I do feel that it is in the best interests of the city, and I would feel that I'm going against my moral compass to shoot it down. So I'm absolutely going to respect and appreciate whatever motion comes forward, but my vote would be to send a positive recommendation, the warts and all. So craft away. I'm just going to be very,
I've
very
taken two stabs at
forward.
it. If there's not a second on that one, then it dies, and someone else can make another motion. So. Okay.
Second that?
You know, not necessarily with what I said.
Hey, let me go ahead and make a motion. This is getting kicked around too much.
So Brett's motion fails.
Okay.
If no one.
I'm 0-2.
If no one seconded it, just trying to keep the Roberts rules going.
Absolutely. We always try to abide. All right. Item 4.4, Ken, I'm going to ask you to walk me through. We'll do a little bit motion by committee to make sure I capture all the concerns that have been raised. But item 4.4, public hearing recommendation of staff's request for review of the Thanksgiving Station Development Agreement, located on approximately 26 acres in the Thanksgiving Point area. I move that we send a positive recommendation to City Council, notwithstanding the Planning Commission notes are, first of all, we include all DRC comments. Second, agreed, legislation, things do not stop mid-term at any point, but is that a consideration for council to be, to bear in mind? Can Clubhouse Drive, what was your language exactly?
Language exactly on that one? Here we go.
Okay.
That I don't...
Clarify.
Yeah, clarify why the developer has to support, that there's a requirement in the agreement for the support of the developer for that drive, for Clubhouse Drive.
Okay.
And then also along with that, recital C was asking for the city to, where'd it go? Was asking for the city to support projects such as these for the benefit of the city.
And then, Brent, you noted shortening the window from 10 years to 5 years.
For the start.
For the start. Okay, I think that is my motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, 3-2. That sends a message in and of itself. It's always fun when we can.
We did it.
That's right.
Hey, thank you for taking the time to go over this. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
And we continue on here now. Is in 4.5. You do know 4.5 is still related, Mr. Murdoch, right?
This one's just a stack property.
Right. Okay. Could I ask that someone make a motion for a little 5-minute breather for
Motion to adjourn until 10:11. 10:12. We'll say 10:12. Give us a few seconds.
There you go. Second. Okay, motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. I will be right back.
That was weird. I'm actually for.
Fairly certain we said 10:12.
Oh, did we say 10:12? I apologize. Everybody has 60 seconds. Enjoy the conversation. Up to.
Oh, I've run out of room, so I'm going to stop taking notes.
Brittany, how we doing?
Oh, I didn't. What's that?
How we doing?
Is it 10:30 or is it 11 that we?
Oh, I know.
If we don't finish at 10:30,
I know.
we turn to dust, right?
I understand. I understand. All the. Yeah. It's one of those, dude. Yep. And yet we're hearing it separately. Back at it. Check in with the wife. Shoot the text. Shoot the text. Yeah. Different? Oh. Yeah.
Oh, we're good.
10:12. All right.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead and hit. Okay. We'll go ahead and call this back to order.
Another break and an
Brittany. Item 4.5, my friend.
Item 4.5, public hearing and recommendation of Stack's request for review of the Stack Soccer Field Property Development Agreement located on 3.64 acres at 3197 North Ashton Boulevard. And this is very, very similar to the item we just heard, just a separate property, but the language in the agreement and everything is pretty similar, also just for the HTRZ. Yeah. So
Can I ask why is it a separate agreement?
I'll answer that one.
Different owner. Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
Thank you. All right. Questions for staff? Seeing none. We've talked through a number of them. We know the applicant is present. If you care to speak to the item,
Yeah.
state the name and do all the formal things.
Right. Ryan Thomas, Stack Real Estate, 4101 North Thanksgiving Way. Excited to be here again. Talk about the soccer field. I would just say this development agreement is mirrored completely after the first one. I'm trying to think. There's no clubhouse drive language in this document. We left that out. I would say it is very, very similar to what we just reviewed there. But if there are any comments or questions, happy to address those.
Very good. Thank you. I assume we have no questions at this point. But no, fire away.
Sorry, I do.
Yep. All right. Right out the gate.
Concerning that, the 10-year, 5-year start plan, is that the same here?
I would think it's probably the same. Yeah, if it's then same stance from our same position. I'm happy to change that.
Okay.
Anything else for the applicant? All right. This is a public hearing. So if anyone from the public would like to speak to the item, now's the time. Mr. Glade.
These games. Kenneth Glade. Ugh, the math does not math. They're talking about $400,000. It's now we're going to get $80,000 as a city. But yeah, they're going to add 300 units for that, 900 residents. We can't even pay a police officer for 3 months for that much. And we all know that rental units drive a lot more police action. And so the costs are going up. They are lying to you. They did a piss poor job of presenting the plan. And then you cut off our access to speak on what they said afterwards. And you let them talk and talk and talk. And you don't let the public come back and re-comment. This is inappropriate, what just happened. You had to wordsmith your way through this approval. We've got people here saying, we got this just a couple days ago. We have other people over here who's like, this has been going on for years. We've known about this forever. Commissioners saying, oh, we've known about all these details. We didn't, because it wasn't posted. This development agreement is new. So you're wordsmithing, trying to push this through, and it's shady. You're trying to push it through tonight when the developer, the applicant here, says, no problem, we'll answer all these questions. We're so open. We really, really, really want to be open and transparent. But you got to do it tonight because I don't want to come back in 3 weeks. That's shady. That's insider baseball. That's dirty. That's what we voted against. That's what we said no to. That's disgusting. The math doesn't math. The shadiness doesn't math tonight. It's inappropriate. That's why we're pissed off as residents. We just had a vote, and we said no more of this. 3 weeks? 3 weeks? They've been trying to do this since 2018, and you have all this knowledge, but you don't have any knowledge, and it's just coming up. We have questions from staff. Disappointing. It's very disappointing. Your behavior, your decisions, disappointing. It's uncalled for. You're working against the people of Lehi. We said, hey, just table it. Let the next council deal with it. Let's talk about it. Let's explore it. No. We got to go tonight. Why? So then we can try to shove it through with our current council, which people don't trust. And we just threw them out. So this really disgusting behavior, what we saw tonight from you guys. You should be disappointed in yourself. And this project, this could be the most beautiful project ever, right? But you don't even know what's going on. None of us do. They came up here and said, we've worked on this for 18 months now. That was their whole presentation. They didn't get into the details. It was us, the public, that had to ask questions. It was us, the public, that had to do this. And then we're cut off from commenting on the garbage that they were talking about. Oh, yeah, you get so much more money, Lehi. Well, we're not talking about all the hundreds and hundreds of extra kids and all the costs associated with that. All the police officers that are going to be needed to police 2,000 rental units. It's crazy. Why would you do this? Why would you do this? It's disappointing. If they were a good developer, they could easily say, you know what, we don't want this to be improper. Let's pull this. Let's table this. Let's bring this back in 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now. It's that easy. It's that easy. But they need it to go through tonight, so shady stuff can happen in 2 weeks from now with our city council. And I was nice earlier. I'm usually not very nice, am I, Greg? I was nice earlier, but when I saw that behavior, come on. You're better than this. You're better than this. You're better than this. You're all better than this. Our city's better than this. We deserve better as residents. Table this.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Rachel Freeman. Some things to note with this. Similarly to the previous item, the developer has the right to ask, and they will develop. They can develop. They don't necessarily need this HDRZ. Also, when the plans were made with the school district, again, The schools rely on property taxes. There was a much lower population of students at the time, and there were different people involved on the school board than there are now, or than there were just voted in to be. And I think that's something that really needs to be taken into consideration. They were in the room. We don't know who was in the room. I think that, we just think about how many years ago that was and the growth in that time period and the strain on the school system and the strain on our community and what is the vision we have. And yes, they're entitled to this, but do we need to propagate it with certain amounts of tax incentive or things like that? And there's some other thoughts. My phone died at this point. I don't have it. I appreciate your attention to this. I also want to note, just publicly, that the city council meeting that was supposed to follow this was for December 9th. But because there are requirements for it to be 12 days from a planning commission meeting to a city council meeting to get something approved, it was moved a week later so that the items this night could go to city council and then be passed. So there's some strategic planning with the agenda items, and I think that needs to be noted because, originally 4 months, the city council meeting was said December 9th, and if that had been the case, you guys wouldn't have had as much pressure on you, and I appreciate your attention to this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just like to again state my support. I live 1.2 William Harris, sorry. I live 1.2 miles from the station. I ride my bike here every day when I don't ride all the way to Salt Lake City. And we've gotten rid of one of our cars. We only have one car. And I would probably live closer to the station if I could. So I think it's we're able to densify, create a center here that is a new feel for Lehi. And I'm excited to see that energy and that node that will be a drawing point for all the city and for new people who don't want to live in the half-acre lots with horses and cows, who want to that experience where they can live close to a station and just get quickly up and down the Wasatch Front. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public commentary and bring it back to the commission.
Getting hit by the car and backing up and running over me again.
Well, we'll discuss the item. Robert's rules, of course, dictate much of how our conduct is set up at these meetings, as always. That, of course, includes the way that public comment works, and even the way the applicant works. And so we'll move on here with the discussion, and I don't expect to change a heart or mind, but I hope that it will at least be sincerely received, that not attempting to do anything shady. I love the city. I am trying to fulfill the mandate before me and face the issues that come before us. So, but I understand this is our city, and we'll have strong feelings. And I realize it's not my place as an appointed commissioner to engage directly, but you know that that is city council's role, but I feel it. Every one of these meetings over the years, I've always felt it. You can't make everybody happy, and you got to make peace with that. You just have to follow your moral compass, and of course law, and the best of your understanding. So, to that point, let's move forward with our best understanding on 4.5.
So can I ask one question to the staff? Where did I go? Why was the city council moved back?
I'm glad you asked. I didn't know if I should address that or not. The new city hall, the original, when they first started construction, it was anticipated that it would be finished sometime in October to November. Obviously, it's not done. The current mayor would desperately love to hold his last meeting as mayor in the new building. So we did everything we could. We bumped it, and I guess I don't have a final determination if it's enough. I don't know if they're going to be far enough along. We'll probably still end up holding the meeting here, but there's only one council meeting in December because of Christmas. They never hold that second meeting in the month, so they figured whether it was the second or the third Tuesday, it didn't matter as far as schedule wise, and so we pushed it to that third one in an effort to give as much time and the best effort we could to hold it in the new building. And like I said, we may still end up here just based on the current status of the construction. But that was, I've been in a weekly meeting throughout the whole construction of the new city hall. That was the effort. They wanted to hold the school district, the swearing in of the new school board. The building official said, nope, not going to happen. So they had to do it at the Broadbent room. That, they've had some milestones that they've missed. The windows have caused some delays. But yeah, that was the reason. I know I was in several meetings where that was discussed. Now, did it line up for this application? Yes. Had it been, next Tuesday, we wouldn't have had enough time. It's really the minutes are the biggest thing, to have minutes be able to be prepared so that the mayor and council can see your recommendations and not just receive those, a day or two before. So,
but it didn't line up because this is a work session, and you asked us to change this to a regular session for that meeting. So I get it. They're trying to fit stuff in. The applicant probably enjoys the current administration and wants to get something through. I get it. They know what they can expect. But let's just not talk around the bush. Like, they tried to do something, and they're trying to do it.
And I would add that one of the big reasons for doing it too is the next item, the water use preservation element of the general plan. That has a deadline of the end of 2025 by the state, and that was it. Just the timing of it coming in for review and stuff, that was really tight too. So maybe just as much, if not more, lining those meetings up worked really well for that the city has to get through for the state.
When was it published that the city council meeting would be pushed back a week? Do you remember?
I'd have to ask city recorder.
It's been on the website since mid-November. I know it's definitely on the notices currently.
Real quick, I'm going to make a motion that we extend our meeting until we're finished. That's my motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second. All's in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
Sorry, we're up against the 10:30, which is technically the end of our meeting, so we're going to see the meeting through.
We should strike that rule. We always see it through. Okay. All right. Did we hear from the applicant on this one? We did. Yep. We did public hearing. Yeah. Sorry. What more we got? Commission?
So I just have a thought from the last one. There's line in the packet. The development agreement clarifies expectations, provides predictability for both parties, and outlines how the HDRZ will be administered. So obviously, as it stands, I don't agree that it does all that, but I think with your motion on the last one, that you were able to clarify some of those things, and so that's why I feel like you should you should make the motion again.
Ooh, 2 and an 8.
Is that dropping the gauntlet on you?
What's that?
I'm sorry to drop the gauntlet on you. But no, I read that line and I thought,
I stepped in as it was clear that no one wanted to make the motion, but as chair, ideally, I make no more than 1 to 2 a year. So let's.
Yeah, no,
It's a made-up rule, though. There's no rule.
It is.
There's not even a bylaw. It's not anywhere.
That is not in our bylaws.
I see.
Jared kind of set that precedent, didn't he?
Did he?
My motion won't pass, so.
Well, make it.
One of you 3 positives do it, and let's go on. Huh?
Oh, you do.
Oh, no, I'm saying mine would be negative.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, well. Then I'll make a motion for item 4.5, public hearing and recommendation of Stack's request for review of the Stack soccer field property development agreement. I move that we offer a negative recommendation to the city council with the findings that this has been kind of brought to us last minute without enough time to digest it, to really go through the implications of what we're voting on. I don't feel comfortable with kind of where the status of the vote is. So that is my negative recommendation to the city council. And I will include all DRC comments.
Would you also include the previous recommended changes?
Yes.
No matter which way this goes?
Should they consider this further, despite the negative recommendation, that they consider a changing of the 10-year window to be narrowed to 5 for the start of the development project window? And what else? Yeah.
Recital C, I think needs to be looked at. Why is it there? That doesn't help your motion much.
Yeah, to evaluate recital C and its merits of being in there or as it's written.
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second. All's in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. 2-3, motion fails, and we can send that on to city council. Great. Okay.
But
Oh, I was just going to say, for the record, November 10th was when we noticed that the meeting was changed. Anyways, just for the record.
so with that vote, obviously you don't have to take another vote if you want to entertain any other motions, but just to give you that advice.
Go forward as.
That one that just went forward, it went.
So it goes positive because we didn't vote a negative recommendation?
If they're, yeah, but no, it would not go as a positive. It would default to negative still.
And I'm okay with that.
I'm not breaking precedent.
That works.
What's that?
The motion was a negative recommendation. It didn't pass.
Right.
So how can it go forward as a negative recommendation?
Under the Roberts rules, they would just go as a negative recommendation because the consensus was not able to be had.
I see. So it does go as a negative recommendation. I'm not going to break, it might not be in our bylaws, but I think precedents matter. I'm not making another motion. Someone else want to?
I'll do it. Sorry.
Okay.
In advance. I'm not going to get it right. Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion on item 4.5 public hearing and recommendation of Stack's request for review of the Stack Soccer Field Property Development Agreement located on 3.64 acres at 3197 North Ashton Boulevard. I move that we give a positive recommendation with all the findings that Tyson.
Does that work for you, Kate?
Is that okay? Okay. And
Will you please write it that way? I don't get
Yeah.
my name in these very often, so no, I'm just kidding.
that's my motion.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you for the time and consideration. We appreciate it.
Item 4.6.
Item 4.6, public hearing and recommendation of Lehigh City's request for review of the water use and preservation element of the general plan. Actually, I'm going to grab. So, as mentioned earlier, this is a required element of the general plan based off of new legislation in 2022 and 2023. So we had that to the end of this year to get it implemented, and so that's, just getting it in for then. So just briefly go through some of the sections. It looks at the historical and future water usage, which is interesting related to some of the previous conversations. So culinary water has been pretty steady per capita use. And irrigation is a lot more than culinary water. There's an interesting spike in 2020, which we've all been curious exactly what caused that spike in irrigation water. And then looking at water use of different connection types is kind of interesting. Residential is the largest number of connections and also largest number of water usage, but also probably the most number of units. So you can see how industrial, the water usage of industrial has gone down over time. This document goes over that maybe it's the type of industrial has changed and things like that. Looking at, just number of connections and things in the history of it. And then it goes into the goals, both looking at the some of the state goals, the water district goals, and then the city goals, and the projection of future water use is all above our reliable water supply line, which is why we have to do this and work on reducing that use. And so it goes into some of the impacts, like one of the big reasons for doing this is to help the Great Salt Lake, to keep it from being more and more depleted. And then going into some of like the goals and things that we can do about it. So one is land use and development standards, requiring the water-wise landscaping, and looks at what some of the existing requirements are, and make some recommendations just to strengthen that. And stuff. This is going into some of our already existing water-wise requirements to use good drought-tolerant plants, limit turf, integrate the stormwater management system, having detention basins and things like that. Trees, taking care of that. And then it goes into some of the recommended updates to continue to make to our code to make it more water efficient. And then looking at our water supply, so the existing system, number of connections, storage tanks, things like that, and then looking at what needs to be improved in the future to meet the water, and looking at impact fees and financing. Water conservation demand management implementation. So this is water reduction measures that could be taken. So some of this is policy. So yeah, going through like the tiered water pricing and public education and incentive program, trying to get the information out and incentivize those changes. Leak detection and repair, trying to find better ways to track that. And yeah, kind of going back to some of the other things with the restricting. And then, yeah, just more of the water conservation demand reduction strategies, looking at other ways to do that. Yeah, and that, I guess the implementation and monitoring goes over kind of who would implement the different things and monitor that they're being implemented. And yeah, that is the full summary of the plan. I'll turn back to the commission for any questions.
Any questions for staff?
Do you know who creates this? Is this like a national water use organization? Is it local? Is it
Who created the document?
just like who creates these numbers and recommendations?
So it was done through Public Works, and they hired a consultant who I think did a lot of the data analysis and pulled the numbers and things. Yeah.
So it is more of a local group, I guess, that's taking into account all this, our water.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it was all specific to Lehi.
I mean, some of the data points are interesting. They had questions on them that didn't have answers in the report. Why we jumped here? Why we dipped here? What? I'd like to know more.
Yeah.
Do we have any data really? Is it all just guessing of what happened, or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
2020, everyone was at home. They're like,
it's
oh, look
data,
at the backyard. Let's
lack of interpretation of data.
let's turn our sprinklers on because the backyard. I'm home today. I don't know, but I don't know. I'd love to know more.
Washing more.
Yeah. Well, but it was irrigation that went up. That's weird.
Did they start a garden?
There it is.
So that was a pretty warm summer.
Yeah.
I mean, it was record heat in Salt Lake City in August, and so I could see why irrigation water would jump.
Yeah.
I mean, it's precipitation driven in a lot of ways.
So the plan, just to answer your question, was done by, or Kim's question, Hanson Allen Luce is the firm that prepared it, and they're very much the kind of the top tier water engineering companies in the state. So, and in probably the Rocky Mountain West.
Any other questions for staff? All right.
I do have a question. Do we have data around like a heavy winter? When we have a heavy winter and water seems to be more plentiful in the area, do people use more water those years? Do we have any trends that suggest that?
I guess we don't have that data, but Public Works
Right.
might. It would be interesting to see if they could.
All right,
Yeah.
sorry.
With the installation of the new meters, they'll get more data from that.
Yeah, once we see actual usage.
Other questions? Nope. All right. Okay, this is a public hearing. So if anyone from the public would like to speak to this item, now's the time. All right. Seeing no comments. I will close public hearing and bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, you can entertain a motion.
I will.
I move that for item 4.6, that we provide a positive recommendation to the city council for the water use and preservation element of the general plan that's proposed, with the finding that it is compliant with state code requirements, that it seeks to increase the long-term sustainability of water in Lehi by measuring use and proposing goals to reduce water usage. The proposed amendment is not detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare of Lehi City, and include all DRC comments.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. City business.
Just schedule-wise, a reminder, and I think I sent out an email Monday of this week, but you are invited to have dinner with the city council on the 16th before their last meeting of the year. The last city business item, which is the most important, is we just want to honor Commissioner Everett for 9+ years. I looked it up today. He was appointed as an alternate in June of 2016. He took over actually Steve Rawls' position. I don't know how many of you knew Steve Rawl, who actually passed away in 2020 with the pandemic. But yeah, Brent's done an awesome job. He's been very diligent, faithful. I know you've had a lot of external things going on while you've served as the on the planning commission. I'm thinking about how many projects, really the whole west side. You've been through Holbrook Farms, Cold Spring Ranch, all of the exchange, the Sky area plan. Yeah, kudos to Commissioner Everett. That's a lot of volunteer hours and hours Thursday nights. So we just thank you so much for your service from the bottom of our hearts. And we always give the planning commissioners that are leaving a copy of our 2 history books, just as a very minor token of thanks. So anyways, I don't know if anybody else wants to.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Brent, I'll miss having your wisdom, sir.
Me too.
Well,
Yeah.
You can still call me.
Oh, I know.
I'll share what little wisdom
Yeah.
I have. But if I may, Mr. Chairman, take a personal privilege.
Please.
I just want to say thank you to the city and to Kim and all those in the planning and zoning department and the city engineers, our legal counsel support, staff support. Too many names to go through, but it's been a privilege and an honor. As you know, my day job is a state public servant. I came from a family of public servants, and I believe in public service. And my eyes have been opened up to what happens at the local level. It's been an honor to be an eyewitness to the inner workings of the city on the planning and zoning side. And I learned a lot. I learned from my fellow commissioners and appreciate the opportunity to have engaging conversations where we don't always agree, but they've, as Nicole said, they've been civil, so thank you for that. And I appreciate serving the public. And I would say that I appreciate their public comment. I'm a big believer in the public comment process, and I appreciate when we have civil engagement with them. To hopefully we have the same goal of making this city a great place. It is a great place, and we want to maintain that. But every decision we make adds to that, and it's I've enjoyed it. I was first appointed by Mayor Wilson. Well, recommended by Mayor Wilson, appointed by the City Council, and then Mayor Johnson, and kept me on for a couple extra terms, which I appreciate. I remember him asking me, "Do you want to do this again?" And I said, "I enjoy it. It's fun." And he, I think, rolled his eyes and couldn't believe that it was really that fun, because he'd served as a planning commissioner before he was a city councilman. And certainly there's pressure. You want to do the right thing by the city.
Yep.
And I've tried to do that. I know there's been disagreements with many of my votes and decisions, but just know that it all came from a genuine place to just make it better. And I'm going to keep coming to meetings just because I am invested. And I love this city. I love this staff. I love my fellow commissioners. And I just am grateful for these tokens of appreciation, but more importantly, the friendships and the opportunities to serve side by side. So thank you all. I appreciate it, and I'm a better person for it. So thank you. Got one, and very important thank you to my family who allowed me to sacrifice many nights away in service of the city without a complaint by them. So if they're listening at home, which I highly doubt, thank you to the family. Right. So
I want to note that our bylaws do not have a specific amount of time you have to be off the commission before you can potentially come
well,
back.
that will be at the pleasure of the new mayor and city council.
Indeed.
If that time were to come up. But I'm sure people will want a break from Brent Everett, Commissioner Everett.
Well, I don't. I'm going to miss your candor and ability to be honest and kind. Agree, whether we agree or to disagree agreeably. It's a wonderful trait.
Well, you'll all be missed. But like I say, I'm not going to go very far. I'll still come.
Good.
And with that, may I?
Indeed, please.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good night. Brittany, it looks like you got a pile of things for me.
Well said.